Chapter 429. The person who called was the dean, Chen Zongdai. When he saw the number, Poplar Fruit muttered, "How did the dean read it so fast?" Poplar Fruit's information was not short. It was more than 100,000 words. If it was a novel, it was not a problem to read 100,000 words in one night. However, it was impossible to read Poplar Fruit's 100,000 words in one night. With Poplar Fruit's fast reading speed, it was impossible for him to read 100,000 words in one night. At most, he could memorize it slowly. No matter what, since the dean called, Yanghua hurriedly picked it up. "Come to my office," Chen Zongdai said concisely. "Ah, teacher, aren't you on vacation? Are you still in the office?" Poplar Fruit asked strangely. "The students are on vacation. Why are we on vacation?" Chen Zongdai laughed. "The college entrance exam results are out. We don't need to recruit students? Are you saying that we don't need freshmen in the second half of this year?" "Okay," Poplar Fruit replied. "Don't talk nonsense, hurry up and come here. If it's not convenient, bring little Kiki here too." Chen Zongdai regarded Poplar Fruit as his favorite disciple. Usually when he talked to him, it was like they were family. It was common for him to speak in such an impatient tone. Before he could ask what was going on, Poplar Fruit reluctantly put down the phone. The teacher called. He had to go, even if he didn't want to. When they went out, Poplar Fruit put a cute pink beret on Kiki. This was bought by Zheng Yujia for Kiki in Beijing. It matched her dress today. Poplar Fruit himself was dressed more casually. However, after wearing a pair of sunglasses, his temperament went up another level. Opening the door of the back seat, Goldie swung the bell on its neck and ran in first. Poplar Fruit moved it to another position and installed the child safety seat. Poplar Fruit carefully fastened the seat belt for Kiki and said, "Don't make any noise in the back. Dad is driving, do you hear me? And you, Goldie." After arriving at the university, because it was the holidays, the campus of Higashiyama University was relatively quiet. Except for some students who did not go home during the holidays and some tourists, Poplar Fruit did not see anyone else. The parking space was not as crowded as usual. Poplar Fruit could park the car near the university building. "Let's go. After we go up, the two of you are not allowed to be naughty. Otherwise, Grandpa Dean will spank you." Poplar Fruit smiled and scared Kiki. Kiki nodded solemnly. However, looking at her big round eyes, Poplar Fruit knew what she was thinking. Kiki liked Dean Chen Zongdai's long beard the most. Although it was not as exaggerated as Old Man White Stone's, it was still as long as a finger. As long as Kiki saw it, she would want to reach out and pull it. Poplar Fruit laughed in his heart. His playful heart also rose and he did not warn Kiki again. After knocking on the door and entering Dean Chen Zongdai's office, Poplar Fruit entered first. Chen Zongdai then saw Kiki hiding behind Poplar Fruit. Kiki was holding a dog leash in one hand, and the other end was fastened to Goldie's collar. There was no other way. Yang Cheng's management of large dogs, although Goldie was still young, golden retrievers were indeed large dogs, was very strict. If they did not have enough safety measures, they would be fined. Kiki turned her head and saw that Goldie did not come in. She pulled on the leash and called out in a childish voice, "Here, here." Then a golden figure ran in. Chen Zongdai did not know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at Goldie, who ran to his feet and sniffed around. "I said you could bring your daughter here, but in the end, you dragged your family and even brought your dog here?" Poplar Fruit laughed and said, "Kiki, this little guy is very clingy. I had no choice but to bring her out. Teacher, don't worry, Goldie will not bite or bark." After saying that, Poplar Fruit went back and closed the door. Then he squatted down and helped Kiki take off her little hat. He said to Kiki, "Kiki, you play with Goldie on the side. Daddy wants to talk to Grandpa Dean, okay?" Kiki stretched out her hands and a sweet smile appeared on her face. She did her best to act cute to Chen Zongdai. "Grandpa Dean, hug." Chen Zongdai shuddered. He shook his head and waved his hands, tactfully declining. "Ha ha ha, Grandpa Dean is not feeling well today. Next time, next time." Last time, Chen Zongdai still remembered the pain of Kiki plucking a few strands of his beard. This time, no matter what, he would not let Kiki have her way again. Kiki pouted her little mouth in dissatisfaction. Then, she clasped her fingers together in front of her chest, and her big watery eyes blinked pitifully. That pitiful look gave Chen Zongdai the feeling that if he refused, he would be committing a big mistake, a big crime. Poplar Fruit snickered on the side. He was used to Kiki's little tricks of acting cute and pitiful, but he did not point it out. Okay, Grandpa Dean, hug Grandpa Dean, hug Kiki, don't cry. In the end, Chen Zongdai could not resist the condemnation of his conscience. He walked out from behind his big desk and walked over to hug Kiki. But Grandpa Dean, let me tell you, you can't pluck anymore. Ouch! Before Chen Zongdai could finish his words, Kiki suddenly attacked like lightning. Her right hand grabbed a few strands of his beard. One of the strands of beard that was not firmly rooted was pulled out by Kiki. The remaining strands were the worst. They pulled at his flesh, causing him great pain. He did not expect that Kiki would really do it and succeed. Poplar Fruit thought that the dean would dodge, so he wanted to see a battle of wits and courage between the two of them. Poplar Fruit hurriedly went up to take Kiki. He gently patted Kiki's little butt and said reproachfully, "Kiki, you're being naughty again." He wanted to clear his name, but Chen Zongdai had lived for so many years. How could he not see through Poplar Fruit's little thoughts? He blew his beard and glared at Poplar Fruit. It's the father's fault for not teaching his son well. Poplar Fruit, you're too indulgent of your daughter. Poplar Fruit smiled apologetically. Yes, it's my fault. Please don't be angry with Kiki. Kiki did not care at all. She giggled and stretched out her hands, wanting Chen Zongdai to hug her again. Chen Zongdai would not get angry with a 3-year-old child over such a trivial matter. He shook his head with a wry smile, tapped Kiki's little head and said, "You're always pulling my beard. I won't play with you next time." After a while, Poplar Fruit and Chen Zongdai finally sat down. Chen Zongdai picked up a thick stack of A4 paper from the table. It was all Poplar Fruit's writing. The dean was old, and it would be very tiring to look at the computer for a long time, so he was used to printing out all the documents. Chen Zongdai said, "I asked you to come here today mainly to discuss the translation theory you've written." Chapter 430. Chen Zongdai's choice of words was very interesting. He said discuss, not talk or chat, which showed that he did not think he was superior to his disciple on this issue. In today's conversation, he was no longer a teacher, but only a scholar and Poplar Fruit to conduct academic research. Indeed, Chen Zongdai was very interested in Poplar Fruit's translation theory. After lunch yesterday, Chen Zongdai flipped through the thought report, given to him by Poplar Fruit, and the result was out of his control. Although Poplar Fruit only briefly introduced this theory in the 100,000 words material, he did not analyze it in depth. Of course, Poplar Fruit did not want to analyze it in depth. After all, it was unrealistic to give a group of translators who were engaged in applied translation for a living. They might fall asleep halfway through. This made Chen Zongdai very uncomfortable. He was a master in the field of functional translation theory, and he was also famous internationally. When faced with other theories, he could not help but nitpick a few bones in an egg. However, after flipping through 100,000 words, it was still so vague. How could he nitpick? Where should he start? Of course not. Teacher, you're exaggerating. I'm not the one who came up with this theory. This theory is already common in other countries, Yanghua said with a smile. Popular? Then why haven't I seen anyone mention it when I go to conferences these past few years? Chen Zongdai said discontentedly. You can find a suitable rule for Chinese translation from the many languages that are as numerous as the stars in the sky. That is your own achievement. Although he might not agree with Poplar Fruit's translation theory, Chen Zongdai was still very protective of his disciples. He was very proud of his disciples' unique discovery in less than a year of learning linguistics. Whether it was a success or a failure, it was a great achievement. How many scholars have struggled and groped their way through the translation industry, but still failed to achieve anything? In this regard, Poplar Fruit was miles ahead of them. Of course, Poplar Fruit's humble words were not wrong. Poplar Fruit's theory did not completely come from his own imagination. To be precise, this theory had its own master. In the translation of Dravidian and Surinamese, translators from both countries would conventionally use the theory of variation, And the results were not bad. Poplar Fruit recently discovered that thousands of years ago, when ancient Sanskrit was translated into Hindi or Bengali, the same theory of variation was used. Not many people knew ancient Sanskrit, but Hindi and Bengali were two languages that were widely spread. Bengali was ranked 7th in the world. This piqued Poplar Fruit's interest. He looked for a lot of information, especially the research materials of the recently deceased Master Ji. Poplar Fruit carefully read dozens of tomes. Master Ji was an expert in the study of ancient Sanskrit, and no one could match him in the past 100 years. Master Ji also had a deep understanding of German. During World War II, he studied and taught at the University of Göttingen in Germany for 10 years. Interestingly, although thousands of years had passed, the theories of variation used in Dravidian and ancient Sanskrit translation were of the same origin. These were only briefly mentioned in Master Ji's works, and there was no detailed analysis. Perhaps Master Ji thought that ancient Sanskrit and European languages were of the same origin. The so-called Indo-European family did not need to be considered. For so many years in the Chinese language field, it was impossible that Poplar Fruit was the only one who understood these theories. Perhaps those scholars were used to thinking that the theory of translation between languages of the same origin did not have much guidance for the unique Chinese translation. Therefore, the research of this theory was like a desert in China. Poplar Fruit could not find any relevant information on the internet. But was this theory really not working? Poplar Fruit did not think so. Poplar Fruit knew 13 languages. Currently in the horizontal development stage, he did not learn any new languages for the time being. So Poplar Fruit could easily read the classics of other countries. Just from the small part that could be found on the internet, Poplar Fruit already had a macro understanding of this theory. Furthermore, his learning speed was too fast. Even if he only took a simple look, after a few days of digesting it in his mind, it would become a branch on his own tree of knowledge. Therefore, after understanding and mastering the theory of variation translation, Poplar Fruit realized that although this theory did not play any role in traditional literary translation, it could be used like a fish in water in translation, which was the most popular application in the market. For example, the translation of some advertising slogans. This was a translation project that many translators had to rack their brains to come up with a satisfactory conclusion. With the guidance of this theory, Poplar Fruit could quickly find a way to solve the problem. Poplar Fruit knew that it was impossible to accept a foreign theory completely. He also had to practice before he got rid of the bad and kept the good, and came up with a brand new variation translation theory. So this theory was kicked out by Poplar Fruit? Not exactly. Although Chen Zongdai had some understanding of the ins and outs of this theory from the information given by Poplar Fruit, after listening to Poplar Fruit's statement, he still sighed and said, "It seems that I have wronged you before." Chen Zongdai knew that his disciple was a language maniac. He was not satisfied with learning 13 foreign languages. He himself was only proficient in English and Spanish. He could speak a few unorthodox languages, but he could not master them. Compared to Poplar Fruit, he was somewhat inferior. However, Chen Zongdai had always been critical of Poplar Fruit's crazy learning of new languages. He had told Poplar Fruit many times, "Learning too much without mastering it is a taboo in learning. You will not be able to achieve your own achievements. You can't go on like this. Be careful not to imitate others." But now, Chen Zongdai was a little embarrassed, because Poplar Fruit's theory was the result of receiving a lot of information and resources. If Poplar Fruit had listened to him and stubbornly stuck to the language that had been thoroughly studied in China, then Poplar Fruit would not have been able to write today's material. "Teacher, what are you talking about?" Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "Your guidance has been very helpful to me. In the past 2 months, I have stopped learning new languages and deeply understood and studied the languages I have already learned. I have improved a lot. If you test me on linguistics again, I promise I can give you an answer by inference." Chen Zongdai laughed and said, "Okay, don't flatter me. Hurry up and tell me the details of your theory." Here, Xiaohan wants to say that the content of this chapter is purely fiction. If there are similarities, it is definitely a coincidence. In addition, the theory of adaptation has long been a theory in the translation field. Don't take it too seriously. Just treat it as if Poplar Fruit is in a parallel world. Chapter 431. I guess everyone doesn't like this kind of plot, so Xiao Han progressed a little faster. Poplar Fruit and Chen Zongdai listed the core 10 types of translation changes that he had summarized so far. Excerpt, translation, abbreviated translation, summary, review, adaptation, interpretation, translation, and reference. Each of them was divided into several parts and carefully analyzed with examples for the dean. Only Poplar Fruit could do this without any preparation, because all the knowledge was stuffed into his mind. With Chen Zongdai's explanation, Poplar Fruit's thinking became clearer and clearer. In the end, he could use any example at his fingertips and did not have to search for it. But in this way, Poplar Fruit took a very long time to talk, and Chen Zongdai raised doubts from time to time. Poplar Fruit and his teacher's discussion lasted for a whole day. Even during lunch, Chen Zongdai did not let Poplar Fruit leave the office. It was Ma Em who cooked the food and sent it over. Kiki and Jinzi were bored out of their wits. Fortunately, Ma Em came and took them around the campus, leaving the two academically obsessed men to quarrel in the office. Yes, quarrel. Although Chen Zongdai was not stubborn, he had been immersed in functional translation theory for so many years, and was deeply influenced by traditional translation ideas. He did not agree with Poplar Fruit's translation changes theory. Often, the old and the young argued with each other until their faces turned red. Poplar Fruit would not soften his stance just because the person sitting opposite him was his teacher. As long as he felt that he was right and had sufficient reasons, he would definitely fight for it. Do you understand? Not every translator can be as good as you. In the end, Chen Zongdai was forced into a corner and threw out a trump card. He said, "If everyone can be flexible and convince the readers, then why do we insist on the standard of trust and elegance for more than 100 years? This shows that your theory doesn't work." Chen Zongdai slammed the table and said. Poplar Fruit confidently smiled and said, "Teacher, I don't agree with your view. Not everyone can do it, but it doesn't mean that no one can do it. A translation theory that cannot be popularized doesn't mean that it is not feasible. I've really practiced it. You've seen the examples I've given you. Variation translation can bring different translation ideas to the translator, and it can make certain kinds of translations, such as the translation of advertisements, the translation of our poems, and the translation of classical Chinese, far more brilliant than the conventional translation. In fact, many of the works translated by our senior translator Lin Xu in the past had the shadow of variant translation. The translation industry did not recognize it, but we cannot deny that those translations have unique value to our Chinese literature and culture." Chen Zongdai shook his head and said, "Lin Xu is different. His literary talent is enough to be a great writer. What he did was not a translation, but a rewriting at most." "But why can't we cultivate more talents like Lin Xu?" Poplar Fruit asked. "Is our school only established to cultivate popular talents? Our country's culture can't spread because it is too unique. If we use ordinary translation methods, foreigners can't understand it at all. We need more talents like Lin Xu to promote our traditional culture." Poplar Fruit's words made Chen Zongdai fall into deep thought. However, Poplar Fruit did not finish his words. He continued, "Teacher, I know that my theory is just a prototype, and there are many aspects that have not been considered thoroughly, but I think that this may be a way out for us to cultivate high-level translators." He smiled and said, "Nowadays, machine translation is getting more and more advanced. Google's translation can only make a few mistakes throughout the whole text. With a few corrections, it will be a perfect translation. Of course, I am exaggerating when I say perfect. But what if we think about the future? In the future, machine translation will become more and more powerful. Most of the technical text translation that ordinary translators rely on for a living, as well as the stuttering interpretation of ordinary interpreters, may be replaced by machine translation," Poplar Fruit predicted without reservation. "If we don't find a way out, there will be no translation profession in the future." Poplar Fruit shook his head and said, "You are just being an alarmist." Chen Zongdai did not agree with Poplar Fruit's last sentence. He retorted, "Cold machines can translate technical texts, But can they translate human thoughts? As long as literature exists, translation will never leave the stage. Yes. Poplar Fruit nodded and said, Teacher, your point of view is exactly what I want to say. But have you seen it? What kind of careers do our language majors have after graduation? Although the trend of world integration has made the literary translation market bigger and bigger, how many of our students are qualified to do literary translation? Poplar Fruit's question made Chen Zongdai speechless. Poplar Fruit continued, It is true that there is no way to make every student reach the level of professional literary translation. It is too difficult, but we can cultivate students who can reach this level into literary translation talents. I think that maybe my translation theory is a breakthrough. Poplar Fruit laughed and said somewhat shamelessly, Maybe after a few years of development, it can form a unique talent training mechanism. Maybe it is an effective process to let our students learn the knowledge they need purposefully, and then use their creative abilities to become literary translators like Lin Shu. Chen Zongdai said with anger and amusement, Then why don't you say literary translators like you? Poplar Fruit scratched his head and smiled embarrassedly. Teacher, my level is still very low. I still need to continue to work hard. This theory of yours is considered a traitor to the deviant Tao, Chen Zongdai said with some concern. I am also discussing it with you slowly. If other people saw it, they might crusade against and boycott you. Poplar Fruit smiled indifferently and said, Teacher, don't worry. Which new theory has not been questioned? I am not short of money or a job now. What's the use of boycotting me? I forgot that you are a millionaire. Even if you can't make a living as a translator, you can still do something else. Chen Zongdai rolled his eyes and said, Don't worry, I am not old enough to be stubborn. Your idea is very good. Higashiyama University will fully support your research. Maybe it is really like what you said, new development and new opportunities. Although Chen Zongdai refuted Poplar Fruit for the whole day, his words of support made Poplar Fruit very touched. Chapter 432. I will try my best to further improve this theory. Poplar Fruit nodded and said. Chen Zongdai looked at the time and said, It's already 4:30. Okay, let's call it a day. Go back and write a paper for me. Paper? Poplar Fruit was dumbfounded. How did it jump to a paper? Chen Zongdai lowered his glasses and glanced at Poplar Fruit and said, What? Are you afraid of writing a paper? If you have a new point of view, you won't publish it. Are you going to keep it to yourself and let it rot? Poplar Fruit said bitterly, Isn't it still incomplete? The theoretical framework you said today is very sufficient. If you are still not satisfied, then you can write and improve it. I know you have the ability. Chen Zongdai chuckled as if his trick had worked. After you write it, I'll send it to the most influential magazine in the country, Translation Scholar. Let's see who dares to question the disciple I chose. Poplar Fruit said with a sad face, Teacher, you are pulling the seedling to help it grow. Aren't you afraid that people will drown your disciple with saliva? Who just told me not to worry and that he was not afraid at all? Chen Zongdai let Poplar Fruit understand what it meant to move a stone and smash his own foot. But I don't know how to write it. I have only written undergraduate theses, and my writing is very bad. Poplar Fruit still wanted to fight for it. Chen Zongdai was already prepared. He picked up a linen folder from the table and threw it into Poplar Fruit's hand. The folder was full of printed paper. Poplar Fruit gently squeezed it. According to the thickness, there were at least 300 pages. In the end, Chen Zongdai was still a wily old fox. He smiled and said, These are all the papers that I have written. You can use them as models. The format is like this, but remember to mark out every quote. This is a serious problem. You can't be lazy. This was something that the dean had planned long ago. There was no way to escape. Yanghua nodded her head dejectedly. Look at how scared you are. Chen Zongdai unhappily replied. Your senior brothers have been waiting for me to agree to help them contribute to the translator genius. But look at you. I've taken the initiative to help you, but you're not interested in it. Let me tell you. Only when you are on Translation Expert will the translation academic circle recognize you. Don't think you are so great just because you are the boss of a company. It seemed to be a good thing. Poplar Fruit finally cheered up and nodded. He said, "Okay, teacher. Don't worry, I will do my best." Chunzongdai nodded with satisfaction. He said, "Try to submit it to me within the next 2 weeks. I will see if you can make it in time for the August issue. It's all in your head. Is that okay?" Poplar Fruit nodded and said, "No problem. But teacher, why are you in such a hurry? Isn't it better to publish it after school starts next year?" Because there is a National Applied Translation Conference on August 8th. If you publish it earlier, you can still make it in time for the conference, Chunzongdai said. However, Chunzongdai's next words broke Poplar Fruit's heart. He said, "Oh right, you have to go too. This year, I will take you to meet the seniors in the translation field. It's good to tell you in advance. You can prepare early." "Ah, I am an undergraduate student. Going to the conference?" Poplar Fruit opened his mouth and said, "That's not good. What undergraduate student? You are my disciple. In terms of level, you are already a doctoral student." Chunzongdai said domineeringly, "Studying for a master's degree is just a process. If you go out there, who dares to say that you are an undergraduate student? Otherwise, why would I let you teach undergraduate students?" Chunzongdai smiled and said, "Of course I didn't want to push you out so early. I wanted you to study with me for another 2 years. I didn't expect you to improve so quickly. There is a conference, so you can practice your courage." Poplar Fruit did not lack courage. What he was worried about was that there was a conference in early August, and now it was almost the middle of July. He had to obey the order and finish the paper. Then his vacation plan would be ruined. Even if he went on a trip after the conference, there was less than half a month left. His original plan would be completely disrupted. "Hey, do you really have a complete plan? You don't want to?" Chunzongdai smiled and said, "This is a good opportunity. You can talk about your theory in front of so many seniors. Although many people will oppose it, maybe some people will agree with your point of view, and then study it with you. You can't do research behind closed doors. I believe you understand this." Poplar Fruit said honestly, "Teacher, it's not that I don't want to. It's good to let more people know about my theory, but I originally planned to take Kiki to Nanhai Province during the summer vacation. If I go to the conference with you, this plan will be ruined. You have nothing to do every day. Why are you taking a vacation?" Chunzongdai asked. "Teacher, when do I have nothing to do every day?" Poplar Fruit said, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. He described his study and work schedule to Chunzongdai. "I see," Chunzongdai praised. "This is the spirit that a scholar should have. Don't always think about taking a vacation. If you want to go into the field of research, you have to be mentally prepared. If you have half a month, where can't you go? In a few years, you won't even want to go out during the holidays. You'll want to stay at home." Poplar Fruit said helplessly, "I don't mind. It's just that I feel guilty that I haven't taken my daughter on a trip for so long." Chunzongdai smiled and asked, "Do you know where the conference will be held this time?" "I don't know." Poplar Fruit shook his head. He guessed. "It won't be Beijing, right? I just came back from Beijing. It was in Beijing last year. How can it be in Beijing every year?" Chunzongdai smiled and said, "This year's conference will be held in Chongqing." Poplar Fruit listened, and didn't hear anything about resorts like the Maldives. He blinked and looked at Chunzongdai confused. Chunzongdai smiled and said, "Chongqing is near Chuan Province. There are so many fun places in Chuan Province. For example, Juzhegu is in Chuan Province. Won't you take your daughter there after the conference?" Poplar Fruit was a little tempted by Chunzongdai's words. Chunzongdai continued to add fuel to the fire. "If you go to Nanhai Province, you have to play on the beach. How old is little Kiki? You don't have to worry about her playing by the beach. What if you don't pay attention and something happens to her?" Poplar Fruit scratched his head. He really didn't think it through. Chunzongdai smiled and said, "Chuan Province is great. There's even a giant panda protection base. I'll take Kiki there. She'll definitely like it." This sentence hit Poplar Fruit's lifeline. Of course Kiki would like it. Such a fluffy, chubby and cute creature would definitely be Kiki's favorite. Chapter 433. Poplar Fruit and Kiki ate dinner at Chen Zongdai's house before coming back. In the afternoon, Kiki went out to play with Grandma Hua. Grandma Hua liked Kiki very much and tried to drag Poplar Fruit home to eat. Chen Zongdai also persuaded her, so there was Poplar Fruit's first experience of eating at his mentor's house. When they got home, Poplar Fruit pushed Gold away and closed the bathroom door. He wanted to give Kiki a bath. This guy came in to cause trouble. Kiki was very excited. She sat in the warm bathtub and didn't even play with her favorite yellow duck. She kept looking up and talking to her father about the fun things that happened today. "So you saw Sister Cece again today?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile as he applied the shower gel for her. Kiki nodded hard. She reached out her little hand and made a beautiful bubble on the water. Then she said, "Brother Zhengzheng was there too." Brother Zhengzheng was Chen Zongdai's 3-year-old grandson. His son and daughter-in-law didn't have time for work, so they took care of him for Grandma Hua. "Really?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. "Did Kiki have fun today?" Chi-Chi fiddled with the water again, causing the bubbles of the shower gel to disperse. She said in a childish voice, Chi-Chi had a lot of fun." But Brother Zhengzheng kept crying. Kiki complained. Gold didn't play with him, so Brother Zhengzheng cried. Poplar Fruit wanted to laugh. Why did he want to laugh? It was because he was really lucky as a father to have raised such an obedient child like Kiki. He thought about how Grandma Hua kept praising Kiki at the dinner table. Then she said that Zhengzheng cried at least 10 times a day. It was really worrying. Speaking of which, although Kiki was half of Zhengzheng's age, the two of them were about the same size. Grandma Hua said that it was because of the Poplar Fruit's good genes. Poplar Fruit thought it was probably half and half. He still couldn't figure it out. In the past, Poplar Fruit was not considered tall. Everyone in the family had the same genes. But after having a daughter, Poplar Fruit's height kept increasing. If it wasn't for the fact that he still looked the same, his mother would have thought that Poplar Fruit had changed into another person. Kiki's mental growth was also faster than the average child's. How could a 1-year-old child speak as smoothly as Kiki? Kiki could also speak a lot of English and French words, the 2 foreign languages Poplar Fruit used most in front of her. Forget it. Let's not dwell on this issue. Anyway, it's a good thing that Kiki is beautiful and smart. After giving Kiki a bath, Poplar Fruit took Gold to take a bath. It played outside for a day. But when it took a bath, the 2 little guys would twist together. The bath that Poplar Fruit gave Kiki would be wasted again. However, Gold was more troublesome than Kiki. Kiki would only splash water, but after Gold finished bathing, before Poplar Fruit could use a dry towel to check it, it would shake its body to get rid of the water. Suddenly, the dog became a 360-degree weapon that could ignore friends and enemies. It was a chaotic attack. Poplar Fruit would suffer every time. Busy arguing with the dean for a day, Poplar Fruit forgot the most important thing at the moment. After he took a bath, he came out and turned on the computer. As soon as she saw the screen, Kiki excitedly left Gold and ran to the sofa. She pulled her father's little toe and climbed up. Ouch! Poplar Fruit almost twisted his toe. He held Kiki up. "Papa, Kiki wants to watch Pleasant Goat." Kiki snuggled in her father's arms and said as she stretched her little head to the computer screen, "Papa has to work. I'll watch it for you later, okay?" Poplar Fruit persuaded. No. Kiki used her killer move of acting cute again. She looked at her father pitifully and said. Kiki's acting cute had no effect on Poplar Fruit, but he thought about it. Kiki didn't watch TV today, and accompanied him to listen to the boring academic discussion in the morning. His heart suddenly softened. He rubbed Kiki's hair that was not completely dry and said, "I really don't know what to do with you." Poplar Fruit couldn't give the MacBook in his hand to Kiki. He saw the Skype prompt that Alan had called him several times. But he still had an old computer in the study room. Poplar Fruit took it out and put it on the coffee table. He connected to the internet and found an episode of Pleasant Goat online that Kiki hadn't watched yet and played it for her. As soon as Kiki had the TV to watch, she immediately became obedient. She sat on the sofa. Gold was also picked up and curled up beside her. After dealing with Kiki, Poplar Fruit finally had time to contact Alan. He didn't know if this guy was waiting online or not. As soon as Poplar Fruit called him, he connected. Alan, you didn't sleep all day, did you? Seeing Alan appear on the screen, Poplar Fruit was shocked. The dark circles under his eyes were bigger, and Alan's curly hair had become a chicken's nest. Who said that? I slept for 2 hours. When Alan talked to Poplar Fruit, he yawned, and his eyebrows showed a deep sleepiness. If you suddenly overworked yourself because of me, wouldn't the vast number of Blizzard players kill me? There was no taboo language abroad, so Poplar Fruit still joked with Alan. It doesn't matter. You don't know before I... Alan was ready to talk about his glorious history. Stop. Now if you have any conclusions, tell me quickly. Make it short. After you finish, you have to sleep for another 10 hours. Otherwise, I really have to worry about your body for Linda. Poplar Fruit raised his hands and said, Okay. Alan shook his head, drove away his sleepiness, and then returned to his excited state. He said, Leon, the game you gave me is really a great game. I played it for 10 hours in a row yesterday. If I knew earlier, I wouldn't have given it to you. Poplar Fruit muttered in his heart. The game design is very creative. I like the plot and the gameplay. Of course, I think the design of these cartoon characters isn't good enough. They should be designed to be more powerful. Alan blabbered on, talking about the pros and cons of the game. Alan's words couldn't be trusted completely. He always looked at the design of other games from the perspective of World of Warcraft characters. How could it be the same? Poplar Fruit thought that I'm Called Main Tank's design was very good. It suited the aesthetic style of Chinese people, especially children. In short, Alan's praise was more than his complaints, which meant that the game was very good. Poplar Fruit nodded in his heart. Leon, are you selling this game to us? Alan asked carefully. No, not for sale. Poplar Fruit laughed. They want to develop it themselves. Alan let out a sigh of relief and said, That's good. Because Blizzard has been developing your last card game. They really don't have the time to invest in the mobile game market. Blizzard didn't seem to invest much in the mobile game market. This might be the last reserve of a veteran PC game company. Alan added in the end. But this game of yours is very good. If you want to sell it to us, I have no reason to refuse. Chapter 434. The game is good. Song Jiwen said as he sat at the table and watched the news on his phone. Really? Poplar Fruit came out with 2 plates. He smiled and said, Well, you've worked hard playing the game. I'll add an egg for you today. The eggs were poached eggs. Poplar Fruit had been researching new recipes for Kiki recently. He found that Kiki liked poached eggs, and they were high in protein and nutritious. Song Jiwen had been drooling over Poplar Fruit's poached eggs for a long time. Poplar Fruit's eggs had a clear color, slightly charred egg white, and transparent egg yolk like a gem. The aroma was even more tempting. It was just that he didn't have time to pester Poplar Fruit to make it before work. Today was the weekend, and he could finally enjoy delicious food. Adding an egg would make 2 eggs. He couldn't praise more. Of course, Poplar Fruit's poached eggs for Kiki and Song Jiwen were 2 different concepts. Kiki put a lot of thought into it. She tried not to be charred, and it was slightly salty, which was good for her health. Song Jiwen's eggs were charred yellow on the outside. He liked this texture the most. Also, enough salt had to be added, or he would complain again. Kiki watched her father put the other plate in front of Uncle Mosquito. She didn't even look at the plate in front of her. She was eating from the bowl and looking at the plate. Poplar Fruit smiled and touched Kiki's little head. He said, Don't look. Don't you have it? Song Jiwen picked up a poached egg and put it on his bowl. He opened his mouth and took a big bite. The oil sizzled down. Poplar Fruit's own breakfast was much simpler. Cold porridge with some pickles was the best summer food. Of course, he wasn't in a hurry to eat. Every time he had to feed his daughter first before it was his turn to eat. So that game was made by you and my daughter's friend again? How much are you going to sell it for this time? 10 million? Song Jiwen asked. Before Poplar Fruit could answer, he said to himself, I think it's more than that. Last time, a few decks of cards were sold for almost 20 million. This time, it's at least 100 million. Aya! Song Jiwen exclaimed exaggeratedly. Lao Gua, you're going to be rich. He's a billionaire. Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes at him. He was busy tearing open the egg and feeding it to Kiki, so he didn't interrupt. After Song Jiwen finished his rant, he said, "First, this game wasn't designed by me and Bebe. It was developed by another game company. They wanted me to recommend it to Blizzard. Secondly, what do you mean by lousy poker? That is a card game that took a lot of effort to design, okay? Thirdly, the company wants to exchange shares with me. Whether or not they can make money in the future is another matter. But 100 million? Don't even think about it. It's not like it's a super popular game." 100 million poplar fruit was indeed out of his reach. However, he was confident that he could make money from poplar fruit. According to Ailuan and Song Jiwen's feedback, this game would still be popular. 10% of the shares, at least earning 1 million, should be possible, right? If that's the case, poplar fruit wouldn't lose out. I don't understand. Forget it. Anyway, it's a business with no capital. It's a waste not to make money. Song Jiwen finished the egg in 2 or 3 bites. Then, like poplar fruit, he filled a bowl with porridge and started eating. Right, 2 days ago, you told me about going to Nanhai province for a vacation. Song Jiwen suddenly remembered. He raised his head and said, "I want to go too." "Where are you going? Don't you have to go to work?" Poplar fruit looked at him strangely and asked, "Hey, only you can stay at home all day and have a vacation. Can't I have a few days off?" Song Jiwen asked with dissatisfaction. "Can you get a vacation? How many days?" Poplar fruit asked. "Definitely not as good as you. I can play for more than a month." Song Jiwen said with some envy, "I have 7 days of annual leave. I plan to use all of them. Plus 2 weekends, I can go out and play for a total of 11 days. I can go with you. Or you can scout the area first and then I'll follow. Of course, you can play the latter part by yourself. But we're not going to Nanhai province." Poplar fruit innocently waved his hand and said, "Are you serious?" Song Jiwen almost jumped up. He said gloomily, "I've already told the leader. I can't go back on my word." "You're not going on vacation? Am I going to play by myself?" "It's not that we're not going on vacation," Poplar fruit corrected him. "We still need to have a vacation. It's just that we're not going to Nanhai province like before." "Then where are we going?" "Chongqing and Chuan province." Poplar fruit laughed. He simply explained to Song Jiwen the reason for the change of plans. "I have no choice. Since the teacher asked, how can I not go? Chuan province is good too. I'll go with you." Song Jiwen said happily, "Why don't we go on an impromptu trip and drive directly to Bianzong?" Impromptu trip was an irresistible temptation for people who like to travel. Poplar fruit was the same. When he heard Song Jiwen's suggestion, he was also tempted. However, after thinking about it calmly, he shook his head. "No, I can't go there with this little girl. How can I go there without worry?" Poplar fruit looked lovingly at Kiki, who had run to the side to play after breakfast. He said, "The main thing is that Bianzong is a highland. Kiki can't stand it." Song Jiwen thought about it and felt that it made sense. "However, if we're driving to Chuan province, we can consider it." Poplar fruit laughed. "There are so many delicious foods from all over the world on a tip of China. We can eat along the way. Hee, just thinking about it is very motivating." "Okay." Song Jiwen jumped up excitedly. He said, "It's settled then. We'll drive to Chuan province. Your Land Rover is the best for road trips." "That depends on our timing." Poplar fruit laughed. "I may need another week or so to complete my thesis." "Which days of leave did you ask the leader for?" "I haven't decided on which days." "Can you do it next Friday?" "If you can, then I'll ask for leave and we'll leave next Saturday." Song Jiwen said in a hurry. "So anxious?" "But I like it." Poplar fruit laughed and said, "I have no problem." "Okay, I'll go prepare the supplies today." Song Jiwen leaned on the chair and said excitedly, "You should quickly finish your thesis and leave the rest to me. I'll arrange the supplies en route." "That's too much. How can you be so busy?" Poplar fruit laughed. "It's just supplies. I'll buy enough in 2 days. I know a friend who often goes out to play. It won't be a problem to ask him for advice. As for the route, I'll check it at work." There's a lot of it online. Song Jiwen laughed. Give me the key. I'll go buy it now. Not today. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, I have to drive to Nansha today. I'll give it to you tomorrow. Chapter 435. Driving Fat Dragon and 3 Tiger Xing on the highway in Yangcheng. Poplar Fruit didn't say a word. He just stared at the road ahead, as if there was someone waiting for them at the end of the road. Poplar Fruit told Fat Dragon and the others that Poplar Fruit thought the game was pretty good, but this spot wasn't exclusive to Poplar Fruit. It was shared between him and Fong Beibei, the other designer of the card game. Therefore, Poplar Fruit's agreement alone didn't count. This matter still needed to be discussed with Fong Beibei. Actually, Poplar Fruit didn't have a problem with this decision alone. Poplar Fruit wanted to pull Fong Beibei into the game, but there was a deeper reason that Poplar Fruit himself didn't want to admit. He wanted to use this opportunity to meet Fong Beibei. Yanghua had an ulterior motive. As he drove, he was no longer in the mood to think about the game. His mind was filled with Fong Beibei's slender and elegant figure. However, this guy didn't realize that this situation had already answered the question Fong Beibei had asked him in the rain. Poplar Fruit drove over, feeling a little nervous. This was because he acted first and reported later. He didn't even tell Fong Beibei beforehand. He was a little worried that Fong Beibei would fly into a rage and refuse to see him. Sitting next to Poplar Fruit, 3 Tiger Xing's heart was also in a mess. Poplar Fruit arranged for Fat Dragon to sit in the back and him to sit in the front. However, Poplar Fruit didn't say much to him. He didn't know what he did wrong. Actually, 3 Tiger Xing was thinking too much. Poplar Fruit didn't let him sit in the front passenger seat because he wanted to talk to him. It was because Kiki was sitting in the back. Poplar Fruit could only let Fat Dragon take care of Kiki. However, Fat Dragon wasn't good at taking care of children. He stared at Kiki for a while before closing his eyes and pretending to be asleep. When they arrived at Nansha, Poplar Fruit hesitated for a moment. He didn't drive directly to Fong Beibei's house. Instead, he found a clean and quiet restaurant 2 streets away. You guys order something to eat first. I'll call her out, Poplar Fruit said as he walked out with his phone. Kiki didn't want to stay in the same room as Uncle Fatty. She clicked her little shoes and followed her father closely. Poplar Fruit anxiously dialed Fong Beibei's number. After waiting for a while, he finally heard Fong Beibei's familiar voice. Of course, it wasn't very friendly. Poplar Fruit, Big Uncle, Weird Uncle. Didn't we agree that you're not allowed to disturb me for 2 months? Tell me, what's the reason today? Fong Beibei said first. I'll make it clear first. You're not allowed to use Kiki as a shield. If you don't give me an acceptable reason, I'll double it in 2 months. Double it? Doesn't that mean it's 4 months? Poplar Fruit was shocked. He quickly smiled and said, Yes, I'm looking for you today for a serious matter. What serious matter? Fong Beibei asked. It's like this. Poplar Fruit briefly told her that Tiger Xing wanted to use his shares to exchange for the 2 spots in his hands. You and Blizzard have 2 spots for free publicity? Fong Beibei asked curiously. I've never heard you say that before. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, I used to think that it was useless. You and I aren't professional game designers. There's no point in talking about it, so I didn't mention it to you. This kind of thing, you can make the decision. Also, Blizzard gave this spot to you and not me. Why are you looking for me? Fong Beibei said generously. If you really want the shares, why don't you just tell Tiger Xing? How can that be? This spot is shared between the 2 of us. Poplar Fruit said righteously. I asked Alan about this game, and he said it's not bad. So we should share 10% of Le Dongjui US shares. Without waiting for Fong Beibei to refuse again, Poplar Fruit added, Beibei, can you come out for a while? Even if you want to accompany me to negotiate with Tiger Xing, I've already brought him to Nansha. He's at the fresh food restaurant near your house. Ah, you're all here? Fong Beibei was shocked. She shouted, You're still at the fresh food restaurant? No, that's my aunt's family. If they find out, we'll be in trouble. Then tell us a place and we'll wait for you there, okay? Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. I didn't say I was going, Fong Beibei said unhappily. Poplar Fruit scratched his head, thinking about what to say to persuade Fong Beibei to come out. Fong Beibei changed her mind. She said, "Well, since you're all here, how can I not go? How about this, you and your friends change places? Well, the restaurant on the top of the mountain on Jinfeng 3rd Road. I'll be there later." Poplar Fruit was overjoyed. He quickly said, Okay, I'll arrange it right away." After putting down the phone, Poplar Fruit picked up his daughter and rushed back to the room in the fresh food restaurant. He shouted, "Let's go, let's change places." "Change where? I've already ordered," Fat Dragon asked, puzzled. "It's okay, I'll pay the bill later. My friend said she wants to go to another restaurant," Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Fong Beibei wanted to come, and Poplar Fruit was willing to pay a few hundred RMB for a meal. "What's wrong with her? She's so weird. It's not like she's a special agent," Fat Dragon said as he stood up with his bag. It's okay, changing to a restaurant she likes is good. I'll pay the bill." Three Tiger Xing also stood up and took out his wallet. Poplar Fruit said with a smile, "Uncle Hu, you don't have to be so polite with me. We're in Yangcheng, and you're paying for a meal?" "Uncle Hu, don't argue with this kid," Fat Dragon said with a smile. "He's rich, a few hundred RMB is nothing to him." Chapter 436. Poplar Fruit stood at the entrance of the restaurant, staring anxiously at the main road. Instead, it was Kiki who first discovered Fong Beibei sneaking along the wall. She shouted happily, and even wanted to jump over. However, this was the main road after all. Even if it wasn't busy, there were still cars coming and going. Poplar Fruit quickly carried Kiki back. When he was still squatting, two beautiful and round slender legs entered Poplar Fruit's eyes. He looked up and saw Fong Beibei standing gracefully in front of him. Fong Beibei was wearing a sports jacket. He didn't know if it was because she was afraid of being seen by someone she knew, but she also wore a hat. From the angle where Poplar Fruit was squatting, he could just see that beautiful face that made his heart beat faster. Underneath the jacket was a short-sleeved t-shirt. The hem was a little short, probably casually worn at home. There was a faintly discernible gap between the t-shirt and the denim hot pants. Poplar Fruit couldn't take his eyes off her. His gaze was fixed, as if he wanted to drill into it and see what was going on. "Hey!" Fong Beibei's face turned red. She took a step back, covered her belly, and pouted coquettishly. Poplar Fruit hurriedly stood up and put on a serious expression, as if everything that had just happened had nothing to do with him. Fong Beibei walked to his right and stretched out her hand to pinch Poplar Fruit's arm. She scolded in a bad mood. "You're the only one who knows how to cause trouble. We agreed not to see each other or call each other for 2 months, but you're harassing me every 2 days. I let you go once, and now you're taking advantage of me?" With Fong Beibei's little strength, if Poplar Fruit bulged his muscles, Fong Beibei wouldn't be able to twist his arm at all. However, Poplar Fruit didn't dare to. He obediently let Fong Beibei grab a piece of flesh and rotate it 180 degrees clockwise and then counterclockwise. It wasn't too painful, but Yang was still grimaced and looked like she was in a lot of pain. In the end, Fong Beibei let Poplar Fruit go and rubbed the place where she had just pinched him. Poplar Fruit's face shyly smiled and said, "It happened in a hurry, so I didn't have time to discuss it with you. You see, I missed you so much before, and I didn't disturb you. Except for that one time when Kiki wanted to talk to you." Ugh, disgusting. Don't say it. Although Fong Beibei pretended to be disgusted by Poplar Fruit's words, she was secretly happy. Her hand pinched another piece of Poplar Fruit's flesh. "Hey, who taught you that? You're starting to be glib now?" Of course it was Song Jiwen who taught him that. After Poplar Fruit told him his plan, Song Jiwen urged him, "Laogua, let me tell you, if you want to get my daughter's friend, you have to be thick-skinned and have a sweet tongue." "Thick-skinned? My skin is very thick. If you don't believe me, why don't you punch me?" Song Jiwen really wanted to beat this guy to death. He finally calmed down and used his many years of experience to teach Poplar Fruit. "Thick skin refers to thick-skinned, you idiot. Don't be shy, you have to be decisive and brave. Say more sweet words. Don't think of yourself as an ordinary man. Be more sweet and say the most mushy words. What if you scare her? In the past, when Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen were together, it was always Poplar Fruit who came up with ideas. Today, it was rare for Poplar Fruit to listen to Song Jiwen's guidance, so that he could capture the beauty's heart as soon as possible. How could she be scared? Song Jiwen said resentfully. There's only a dumb donkey standing there. There's no beauty who doesn't like sweet words. No, Poplar Fruit quickly shook his head and said, these are all facts. How am I glib-tongued? Bebe, you're dressed so beautifully today. This is my last advice. Remember, never admit that you're deliberately saying nice words. Bite the bullet and show that you're saying it from the bottom of your heart. Song Jiwen's warning was still vivid in Poplar Fruit's mind. Of course, Poplar Fruit didn't say a word against his heart, especially when he said those praises. The love in Poplar Fruit's eyes was undisguised. Fong Bebe blushed. She shyly looked around her and said in a low voice, no, I'm not. I came out in a hurry today. I told my dad that I was going to play with my friends. I didn't even change my clothes. It shows that our Bebe is a natural beauty. Poplar Fruit hugged Kiki and laughed. You're really beautiful when you don't have any makeup on. Fong Bebe rolled her eyes at him, but her tone was no longer complaining. She said, who's yours? She hugged Kiki, who was already screaming, and the two girls talked intimately for a while. Poplar Fruit suggested, let's go in. Tiger Xing and the others are already inside. What's the hurry? Fong Bebe pulled Poplar Fruit's clothes and said, we're going to talk business with someone. Why are we in such a hurry? Tell me the details first. I'm still in the fog. Poplar Fruit asked in surprise. Ah, you know how to talk business? Of course. Fong Bebe said proudly, when my dad talks business, he often brings me along. Isn't your dad a teacher? Poplar Fruit was puzzled. He's a teacher, but our family used to run a small stationery store. Now that it's big, my dad resigned and came out to take care of the business, Fong Bebe said. Why would your dad bring you along when he's talking business? Poplar Fruit still felt strange. When he was talking business, he had no choice but to bring Kiki along. If he had Bebe to look after her, why would he bring this little troublemaker out? Because my arithmetic is good. Fong Bebe puffed out her bulging chest and said, as long as I'm here, no one can cheat my dad. In fact, when Fong Bebe said to talk business, she was going to the stationery store to buy goods. Other people would bring a calculator to buy goods, but the Fong Bebe's ability was even better than a calculator. She could calculate the addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of 4 to 5 digits in an instant. And the result was accurate to 5 decimal places without a problem. There was no other way. At that time, the small business had to be calculative. Even a little loss was painful. Not to mention Fong Bebe's stationery store. Even if you went to a small restaurant to eat, if you didn't check the bill carefully, the restaurant owner might add a few yuan here and there. The amount was roughly correct, but there was still a small gain. Well, it's like this. Poplar Fruit told Fong Bebe all the information he knew. So it's like this. But I'm curious. How do you know how much the company is worth? Fong Bebe asked curiously. Yes, it only took 1 or 2 days. How did Poplar Fruit do it so quickly? Poplar Fruit scratched his head. He couldn't tell Fong Bebe that the detailed data was secretly investigated by Zheng Yujia for him, right? He could only cover it up with a dry smile and said, I have a friend in Zhongguancun. I asked him to investigate for me. It's the information age, you know, haha. Chapter 437. After telling Fong Bebe what he knew, Poplar Fruit led Fong Bebe to the private room. He walked in front, opened the door for Fong Bebe, and took off her hat with a smile. Come in. Sorry to keep everyone waiting. After Poplar Fruit opened the door, he let Fong Bebe go in with Kiki in her arms. Wow. As soon as Fong Bebe went in, Fat Dragon and Tiger Xing quickly stood up, especially Fat Dragon. He looked at Fong Bebe from head to toe, and then looked at Poplar Fruit with a mischievous expression. Let me introduce you. Poplar Fruit pretended not to see it. He smiled and said, this is Fat Dragon. His name is Long-O. He was my junior high school classmate and good friend, and he is a relative of my brother-in-law. This is Tiger Xing, Uncle Hu. I told you about him before. This is Fong Beibei my. Poplar Fruit hesitated. He looked at Fong Beibei, who was glaring at him, and said, my junior sister. Haha, hello classmate Fong. Fat Dragon was more familiar with Poplar Fruit, and he knew Poplar Fruit's character. How could he not see that Poplar Fruit was interested in the girl? He smiled and greeted Fong Beibei. It turns out that Poplar Fruit is hiding such a beautiful friend. I was wondering why he didn't accept the girl my aunt introduced to him. Fong Beibei blushed. She shook her hand and said, no. Poplar Fruit kicked Fat Dragon and said, okay, don't be so enthusiastic. You scared Beibei. Fat Dragon nodded happily and sat down, but he kept observing. Seeing how Poplar Fruit was so attentive to Fong Beibei, and how he used tea to wash the dishes, he muttered in his heart. You're still denying it? There's definitely a problem. Should I tell Sister Yang Ping? Should I? After the dishes were served, everyone began to eat. The food in the restaurant on the mountain was not bad. Although Poplar Fruit had never been there, he had eaten there a few times, and felt that it was quite authentic. After eating more than half, Fong Beibei had already put down her chopsticks. She sat beside Poplar Fruit and quietly drank tea. Xing Sanhu found a suitable opportunity to bring up the topic of today's visit. Poplar Fruit smiled and said, Uncle Hu, I personally agree with this matter, but we still have to see how Beibei thinks about it. If she says it's okay, then it's okay. I'll listen to her. Xing Sanhu looked at Fong Beibei with hope. She took another sip of tea and said softly, Uncle Hu, I've never played this game before and I don't know much about games. However, I believe in Poplar Fruit. He said that your game is worth our investment. I don't think his judgment is wrong. Xing Sanhu was a little excited. He asked, then does that mean you guys agree? Fong Beibei smiled and gently shook her head. She still used a gentle tone and said, not yet. We're talking about business. We still have to discuss the details. Poplar Fruit looked at Fong Beibei in surprise, but did not say anything. 3 Tiger Xing could be considered someone who had been in the business world for more than 10 years. He resisted the urge to say, what do you want to discuss? I'll agree to whatever conditions you have. Although he was very eager for the 2 recommendation spots in Yanggua's hands, the more eager he was, the calmer he had to be. If there's anything you think is inappropriate, just say it. We can discuss it. Xing Sanhu took a deep breath and smiled. Uncle Hu, please don't mind. I'm just a little dissatisfied with the terms of our share exchange. I just feel that the 10% shares you're giving us is too little. Fong Beibei said. The way she spoke didn't sound like she was in the middle of a negotiation. Instead, it sounded like she was comforting Kiki. It was very gentle, and it made people feel comfortable. Xing Sanhu didn't dare to be careless when it came to benefits. He asked, then Miss Fong, how much do you think is appropriate? 20%. Fong Beibei's voice was very soft, but there was no room for doubt. 20%? Xing Sanhu was so shocked that he almost shouted. Xing Sanhu couldn't help but look at Fat Dragon. He seemed to be asking, what's up with your relatives? Why are they asking for so much? Fat Dragon laughed. He took a sip of tea and said, why are you looking at me? You guys can talk about the money. I'm just here to freeload. Poplar Fruit also looked at Fong Beibei in surprise. However, he didn't say anything. He left it to Fong Beibei. This wasn't to say that Poplar Fruit had a lot of confidence in Fong Beibei. He also felt that Fong Beibei's request was a little too much. She wanted 20% shares for 2 free publicity spots? However, Poplar Fruit didn't care too much. Fong Beibei could do whatever she wanted. It didn't matter if the negotiation fell through. It was just a business deal. 20% is too much. Xing Sanhu said with an ugly expression. This doesn't make sense. Fong Beibei said unhurriedly. Uncle Hu, we have a friend in Beijing's Zhongguancun. He told us that your company's current market value is only a little over 20 million. That's not right. Poplar Fruit's eyebrows twitched. He remembered that he told Fong Beibei that it was 30 million. Could it be that Fong Beibei remembered it wrongly? How is that possible? Xing Sanhu said excitedly. Our company's total assets are at least 30 million. 20 million is definitely nonsense. I'm sorry, Fong Beibei said softly. Uncle Hu, don't be angry. Maybe our friend made a mistake. Let's calculate based on 30 million yuan. 10% is only 3 million yuan, right? Xing San, who hesitated for a moment and nodded gently. 3 million. According to the exchange rate, it's less than $500,000. Fang Beibei smiled and said, when Poplar Fruit was negotiating with Blizzard in the United States, the price was 200 million. The other party is willing to pay another 200 miles gold for our game, but Yongguo doesn't want it. He only wants the price he negotiated with his friend. This was a history that Poplar Fruit had only told Fang Beibei in detail. When Fang Beibei mentioned it at this time, Xing San, who was stunned and worried about Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit scratched his head awkwardly. He didn't know why Fang Beibei suddenly changed the topic. Blizzard is very grateful to Poplar Fruit, so they gave him these 2 free publicity spots. Fang Beibei smiled and said, of course, I won't directly exchange $2 million for these 2 spots. That's not realistic. Xing San, who hesitated for a moment, and then nodded. But even if it's not $2 million, these 2 spots are worth at least half, right? Fang Beibei smiled and said, but Uncle Hu, the price that you offered to Poplar Fruit is less than half of this. Besides, if this game is released to the market and receives an ordinary response, maybe the $50 million will be depreciated. Fang Beibei looked at Xing San, whose face that was gradually turning red, and said seriously. Chapter 438. Fang Beibei's long list of numbers stunned everyone. Even the smart Poplar Fruit was almost confused by Fang Beibei. 3 Tiger Xing didn't think much of it at first, but after Fang Beibei listed so many numbers, 3 Tiger Xing felt ashamed. He started to wonder if he had done something wrong. But 3 Tiger Xing couldn't find an excuse. Seeing this, Fang Beibei said softly, Uncle Hu, actually the 20% that I mentioned isn't a lot. Don't you think so? 20% was only 6 million yuan, which was less than 1 million yuan in Mi dollars. If we spread it out, it's only $500,000 per slot. It's already a good deal. That's not how it's calculated. 3 Tiger Xing's face turned red as he said weakly, if we can get the first slot and make the first game well, then when we become famous, we won't need the second slot. The second slot's value shouldn't be as high as the first slot, it should be less. Poplar Fruit thought about it. That seemed to be the case. Then did Fang Beibei make a mistake? Uncle Hu, you only want to buy 1 slot? Fang Beibei was not surprised. Her expression did not change at all. She still smiled sweetly and said, if it's a quota, it's not impossible to sell it to you at the price of $50, which is the price of 10% of the shares. We don't have to pack everything up and sell it to you. It's good for us too. Think about it. Ludong managed to make the game so successful just because of one of our slots. When the time comes, do you think that no one will want our second slot? If we sell it to other game manufacturers, the price will definitely be doubled. Fang Beibei smiled. We're willing to sell both slots to you because we think that you're more sincere, so we offered a lower price. What she said made a lot of sense. Now, Yongguo had reversed the situation. He began to feel that what Fang Beibei said was right. 3 Tiger Xing became listless. He said dejectedly, we also want to buy both slots. I want to use the second slot for our next game. The next game was Mercenary World. 3 Tiger Xing was proud of his work. It was his dream to make it into a game himself. However, he wasn't confident enough. He was worried that he would make a fool of himself, so he wanted to borrow Blizzard's power. But 20% of the shares is really too much. 3 Tiger Xing sighed. Our company is short of money. If we give out so many shares, the other shareholders will complain. Poplar Fruit poured some hot tea for Fang Beibei. She quietly took a sip and didn't say anything, allowing 3 Tiger Xing to give his terms. 3 Tiger Xing's mouth, then he said, we can give you 12% of the shares. At most. We can't give you more than that. Poplar Fruit wanted to persuade Fang Beibei to stop, but he held back. He was interested to see how Fang Beibei would deal with it. 18%. Fang Beibei softly said, Uncle Hu, 18% is already taking a step back. The 12% you gave is only 6 million. It's just an extra 600,000. It's too little. 3 Tiger Xing said bitterly, no, we can't. The shareholders won't accept it. They're already complaining about the lack of money for dividends. We can't let them give up so many shares. If they have objections, they can give up their shares. Feng Beibei said with a smile. It's all for the development of the company. Everyone should contribute. You can't say that. 3 Tiger Xing sighed. If they give up their shares, the company will collapse. I don't have the money to buy back the shares. If I sell them all to outsiders, I won't have the final say in the company. Then how about this? Feng Beibei smiled with her eyes narrowed. We'll pay. If anyone wants to give up their shares, we'll buy it. The company will still belong to you. 3 Tiger Xing shook his head and said, the company can't afford this. The shareholders are important members of the company. We can't do without them. Then what do you think we should do? Feng Beibei waved her hand. Is 12% really not enough? Triple Tiger Xing asked in a pleading tone. It's too little. Feng Beibei shook her head. How about this? Feng Beibei's eyes lit up. Didn't you say that the company is short of money? We'll give you 2 million yuan, and you can give us 18%. 2 million. Yes, 2 million. Feng Beibei smiled brightly and said, 2 million can be exchanged for 67% of your company's shares. I don't want this small change. Just take it as a loss for us. I'll buy an extra 6% of your shares. This way, you can have more operating funds, and it'll be easier to explain to the shareholders. 2 million yuan. 2 million yuan was very attractive to Ludong Zhuyu, who was at the end of their rope. With 2 million yuan, they wouldn't have to lay off workers for at least a quarter. However, 2 million yuan for 6% of the company's shares. Although 2 million yuan was definitely worth it, 3 Tiger Xing wasn't a short-sighted person. He knew that if Ludong Zhuyu became popular in the future, 6% of the company's shares would be worth more than 2 million yuan. 3 Tiger Xing gritted his teeth and said, 2 million yuan isn't enough. If you can increase it to 4 million yuan, I'll make the decision to increase it to 18%. Uncle Hu, you're not being honest. Feng Beibei smiled. I said 2 million yuan is already a loss for us. Plus, it's to support the company's operations. You're good. You're doubling it. That's not how business works. Feng Beibei's voice was as gentle as water. However, 3 Tiger Xing was still embarrassed by Feng Beibei's words. In the air-conditioned room, his bald head was sweating. However, Feng Beibei didn't let his conscience continue to blame him. She smiled and said, of course 4 million yuan isn't out of the question. As long as you can accept 20% of the company's shares, we can give you 4 million yuan. She even reminded him kindly, Uncle Hu, 2% of your company's shares is only worth 600,000 yuan. We'll exchange it for 2 million yuan. You're really making a lot of money. 3 Tiger Xing was dizzy from Feng Beibei's words. He felt that he had made a lot of money. He didn't hesitate anymore. He raised his teacup and said, okay, 20% it is. Deal. Miss Feng can take a step back. If I, 3 Tiger Xing, don't take a step back, I'll laugh at myself. Chapter 439. 3 Tiger Xing was frightened by Feng Beibei. He didn't dare to drag things out. He was worried that Feng Beibei would give him a bunch of numbers and increase the price again. After the two sides agreed to the deal, 3 Tiger Xing took the opportunity to run out and find a printing shop to sign the contract. There were 3 copies of the contract. 1 copy was for Poplar Fruit, 1 copy was for the company, and 1 copy was for the finance department. 3 Tiger Xing filled in the conditions of both sides and handed it to Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit still knew about contracts. When he was working in a foreign trade company, he had a lot of opportunities to help draft contracts. He also took the opportunity to learn a lot. He had a good understanding of Chinese and foreign contracts. So when he was at Blizzard, he didn't need to hire a lawyer to read the contract himself. Of course, this was also because of his trust in Alan. Poplar Fruit looked at the contract. It seemed very casual, but with his super fast reading speed, Poplar Fruit memorized the 3-page contract in just a dozen seconds. Seeing the contract, Poplar Fruit frowned. He turned around and held the contract in his hand. He pointed at it and said to Xing Hu, "Uncle Hu, you only filled in my name here. This should be the deal between Bei Bei and me. You have to add her name as well." "How do we distribute it?" Three Tiger Xing asked curiously. He also seemed to understand Poplar Fruit's thoughts. He wanted to share the benefits with the girl he liked. "Half." Before Poplar Fruit could say half, Feng Beibei stopped him. Feng Beibei pulled Poplar Fruit's sleeve and smiled. "Don't bother. Just fill in the name of Poplar Fruit." "How can this be?" Poplar Fruit said anxiously. "We agreed that you have a share." "That's what you said. I didn't agree." Feng Beibei mischievously winked at Poplar Fruit. At this time, Kiki, who was sitting between the two of them, saw this. She was so happy that she giggled and even clapped her hands. No one knew what she was thinking of that made her so happy. "Uncle Hu, wait a moment." Poplar Fruit pulled Feng Beibei's hand and said, "Come out for a moment." This was a private matter between the two of them. It was better to discuss it in private. Poplar Fruit pulled Feng Beibei to the back of the room, closed the door, and took her to the corridor. He turned around and saw Feng Beibei looking at the place where the two of them were holding hands. Her face was a little red. Poplar Fruit's heart skipped a beat. He gently tightened his grip and did not let go. He asked in a gentle voice, "Beibei, we've agreed on this. We both have a share in these two places. The benefits should be split evenly between you and me." Feng Beibei tried to break free, but Poplar Fruit was thick-skinned and did not let go. She could only pretend as if nothing had happened and said, It's too troublesome. Forget it. Just write your name." "What did you say?" Poplar Fruit said reproachfully. "How is it troublesome? It's just changing the contract. After we sign it, it'll be fine. If you think the follow-up procedures are too troublesome, I'll take care of it for you. Half of it is worth a lot of money." "You're all about money," Feng Beibei said angrily. "There's more money and less money now. What's the point? You and I both have so much money." "You can't say it like that. The ownership of the benefits should be divided clearly," Poplar Fruit advised earnestly. "Don't tell me that you're trying to figure out who's going to pay who?" Feng Beibei asked. "How can that be? Of course, the money should be paid by the man," Poplar Fruit said, patting his chest. Feng Beibei's face turned red again. She said, "Whose man are you? A male chauvinist?" Poplar Fruit touched his head with his free hand and smiled foolishly. I'm just saying." Feng Beibei did not hesitate. She looked into Poplar Fruit's eyes and asked seriously, "Then let me ask you, is there a difference between giving it to you and giving it to me?" Feng Beibei's question made Poplar Fruit's pupils dilate, and his heart beat faster. However, Feng Beibei was not done yet. She said, "Is what's written in the contract important? Don't tell me that if it's written in the contract, you won't share it with me in the future?" Poplar Fruit immediately raised 3 fingers with his free hand and swore, "Of course I'll share it." After that, he felt that the word share was not used well, so he added, I'll share it with you." "Then it's settled," Feng Beibei said. "The result is the same. Don't make it so troublesome." Poplar Fruit hesitated for a moment and said, But we're not in that kind of relationship now. Aren't you afraid that I'll make money and run away?" "What are you afraid of?" Feng Beibei pulled her hand back and put it on her waist. She looked at Poplar Fruit with a smile, showing 8 teeth. It was very strange. "Run away. I won't stop you." Poplar Fruit laughed dryly. He moved closer to Feng Beibei and said, "How can I run away? How can I bear to run away?" Feng Beibei put her hand on Poplar Fruit's chest. She leaned back against the wall and looked into Poplar Fruit's eyes without flinching. She said, "I know what you mean. We're really not in a relationship now." Her words made Poplar Fruit's heart ache, but he did not show it on his face. Instead, he listened quietly. "You're doing this for my own good. I know. But there's really no need to do this." Feng Beibei smiled slightly, as if she was talking about something that had nothing to do with her. "If you betray and leave because of money, then I can see you clearly. Isn't it just money? It's better to buy a lesson than to be heartbroken in the future." Seeing Feng Beibei pretending to not care at all, Poplar Fruit's heart ached. Poplar Fruit opened his mouth, and wanted to say a few words of comfort. But just as his mouth moved, it was blocked by Fong Beibei. Cough, not with the mouth. Please don't misunderstand. Fong Beibei pressed a finger on Poplar Fruit's lips. She shook her head and signaled Poplar Fruit not to interrupt. Almost in the blink of an eye, Fong Beibei puffed out her bulging chest and put on a confident expression. She looked deeply into Poplar Fruit's eyes and said word by word, "If you don't run away, and we have a future." She paused for a moment, and a trace of a smile appeared in the corner of her eyes. She then continued, "Isn't what's yours also mine? What do you think?" Domineering. Too domineering. But I like it. Poplar Fruit's mind was occupied by Fong Beibei. There was actually such a cute girl in the world. Poplar Fruit felt that he couldn't help but kiss Fong Beibei's soft and moist lips. Unfortunately, his mouth was covered by Fong Beibei and he couldn't move. However, Poplar Fruit's eyes were too naked. It was as if two big hearts were about to jump out. Fong Beibei, who was a little domineering just now, couldn't resist Poplar Fruit's attack. Her cheeks were stained with a red glow like the sunset. Chapter 440. Poplar Fruit was still immersed in his love for Fong Beibei, but Fong Beibei couldn't stand Poplar Fruit's burning eyes. She gently pushed Poplar Fruit's chest and said, "Hey, answer me." Oh. Okay, no problem." Poplar Fruit stood up, patted his chest and said, "No problem. I will prove that I am worthy of your trust. Then let's go back." Fong Beibei squeezed out, turned around and said. Poplar Fruit couldn't bear to leave the rare opportunity for the two of them to be alone so quickly. He reached out and held Beibei's hand and said, "Don't be in such a hurry to go back. Let's talk again." "Talk about what?" Fong Beibei helplessly stood back to Poplar Fruit's side. The two of them stood side by side against the wall. Fong Beibei lowered her head and looked at her feet, while Poplar Fruit turned to look at her. Although he could only see her long and soft hair, Poplar Fruit was still very satisfied. He curiously asked, "Tell me how you convinced Uncle Hu. You are amazing, increasing from 10% to 20%. "No." Fong Beibei raised her head, smiled brightly and said, "I just kept calculating for him, making him understand that from the accounts he took advantage of us, making him feel that he owes us." "I think you are very good at calculating," Poplar Fruit said. "But it seems that I was also convinced by you. Why do I feel that we lost money by giving him 4 million? If we didn't pay a cent, wouldn't it be better to exchange it for 12% of the shares?" "No." Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit seriously and analyzed for him. "From the accounts we lost money, but in the long run, we actually gained. When I told Uncle Hu, I actually secretly changed the concept." Fong Beibei's face bloomed with a bright smile, a little proud. "I calculated for him the money in front of him. Once he wants to talk about his vision for the future, I will lead him back to the topic." "You think this company will make money in the future?" Poplar Fruit asked strangely. "Isn't this the first time you heard of this company?" "Do you know Rovio?" Fong Beibei asked. "I don't know, but hearing English words from your mouth, I want to laugh." Poplar Fruit's face couldn't help but smile. Fong Beibei pinched Poplar Fruit and said, "Let's get back to the topic. This is a foreign game company. This is a foreign game company. You must have played their Angry Birds, right?" Poplar Fruit nodded. This game was popular all over the world. How could he not have played it? "I've seen the history of this company. When the game was being developed, they were so poor that they almost sold their pants. At that time, the core team only had 4 people." Fong Beibei smiled. "But now because of an Angry Birds they rose up. I heard that the market value is over 100 million. Mijin." "That's amazing." Poplar Fruit nodded and said. "So companies that make mobile games have a bright future, and it's rare that a company that made a game that was recognized by Blizzard." Fong Beibei said with certainty, "I don't dare to ask for too much, just 1/10 of Rovio's will be enough for us." "I didn't expect you to be a little money grubber," Poplar Fruit joked. "You told me before that if you're afraid of money, you'll become bad." Fong Beibei's expression darkened. She shook her head and recovered her smile. She twisted Poplar Fruit's waist muscles and said angrily, "I want to help you make money, and you're saying that I'm wrong, right?" No, I definitely didn't mean that. Poplar Fruit raised his hands and smiled apologetically. Although Fong Beibei twisted his waist, Poplar Fruit still enjoyed the process. Alright. Poplar Fruit suddenly thought of something. He asked, Beibei, do you have a passport? Take advantage of the holidays. Go and get a visa to France. Why? Fong Beibei asked, puzzled. Next semester, let's go to France together, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. He had already considered this matter when he made the promise to the French major class. He thought that he and Kiki would be going to France for about a month, so he might as well ask Fong Beibei to go with him. It just so happened that it was the National Day Golden Week. However, after seeing Fong Beibei being confessed to, he threw this idea to the back of his mind. What's wrong? Why do you suddenly want to travel abroad? Fong Beibei looked at him strangely. Poplar Fruit told her about his relationship with Givenchy, and the fact that he was going to be a guest model at the Bali Fashion Week. Model? Fong Beibei looked at him strangely. She patted Poplar Fruit and said, Stand up straight. Poplar Fruit obeyed and stood in the middle of the aisle with his head held high and his chest puffed out. Then Fong Beibei muttered, I'd like to see why Givenchy asked you to be his model. She walked around Poplar Fruit a few times. Poplar Fruit was a little uncomfortable under her gaze. Fong Beibei finally stopped and patted Poplar Fruit's shoulder. Uncle, I didn't expect you to be so good. Are you going to enter the entertainment industry from now on? Poplar Fruit felt that Fong Beibei's words were a little strange. He couldn't stand it anymore. He turned around and said, No, I'm just doing a small favor for a friend. Don't you like it? Don't worry, I won't do it again. I didn't say that. You can do whatever you want. Fong Beibei lowered her head and twisted her toes on the ground. I just don't want to be famous and suddenly run away. Poplar Fruit shook his head hard and said, Famous? I'm just a scholar. When I come back from helping you, I'll stay at school to accompany you. Who wants you to accompany me? Fong Beibei raised her head and looked at Poplar Fruit and pouted. Go. Poplar Fruit pushed Fong Beibei and said, Come to Bali with me, okay? Let's go and have fun together. Just treat it as a vacation. Fong Beibei shook her head and said, No, I can't. Next semester, I have a competition to participate in, and I have to go abroad. There's a conflict of time. What competition? Where is it? Poplar Fruit asked curiously. Why haven't I heard you mention it before? It's during this holiday. My tutor added me at the last minute. Fong Beibei said, I forgot the English name of the competition. When translated, it's called the International Mathematical Modeling Competition. It's actually organized by America. I have to go to Texas with my school's team to participate. What about the time? The name of the competition sounded difficult. For Poplar Fruit, who was a liberal arts student, he was even more confused. However, he still did not give up and asked. It's October, Fong Beibei said. October 6th, inconsistent with reality, don't look into it. Although it's a little different, I have to go to America with the team. Poplar Fruit scratched his head and sighed. He said, What a coincidence. Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit apologetically and said, I'm sorry, I didn't think of it. Chapter 441. At this time, no matter how depressed he was, Poplar Fruit had to be magnanimous. He smiled and said, It's okay. We'll play together when we have the chance in the future. Play? You only know how to play. Fong Beibei looked at Poplar Fruit unhappily and said, You don't do anything serious at all. You're going to graduate school next semester. Don't you need to prepare? Poplar Fruit laughed and said, No, I'm very serious, okay? Serious. Umph. Fong Beibei stood on her tiptoes and grabbed Poplar Fruit's hair with both hands. She pretended to be angry and shook it. She said, How can you be so serious? You're harassing me every few days. Poplar Fruit didn't resist. He just smiled foolishly as she shook him. Fong Beibei was so angry that she laughed. She threw his face away and pouted. I'm also very busy, okay? I have to read a lot of information every day to prepare for the competition. It's giving me a headache. Yonghua patted her head lovingly and said, Let me take a look. See your sister. Fong Beibei took a step back and said angrily, "Okay, I promise that for the next month, before school starts, I won't disturb you, okay?" Poplar Fruit moved to Fong Beibei's side and said, "Actually, I'll be leaving in a few days after I finish my thesis. I'm going to drive to Sichuan with Song Jiwen, my best friend. I've mentioned it to you before. Then, I'll be having a seminar with my tutor in Zhongqing next month." "Good boy," Fong Beibei said with a smile. "We agreed on 2 months. You have to keep your promise. Let's go. Let's not talk about it anymore," Fong Beibei said. "We've been out for so long. People will think that we've quarreled." Poplar Fruit laughed and said, "Actually, it doesn't matter. Let them wait." "Aren't you worried that Kiki will throw a tantrum?" Fong Beibei's words directly hit Poplar Fruit's soft spot. After saying that, Poplar Fruit laughed awkwardly. He did not delay any longer and returned to the private room with Fong Beibei. The atmosphere in the private room was very strange. Kiki sat on her BB chair vigilantly, and the other 2 adults did not speak. The 3 of them just stared at each other. He didn't know how much time had passed, but it felt like a long time. As soon as Poplar Fruit opened the door, Fat Dragon stood up and let out a huge sigh of relief. "Fruit, you're finally back." Fat Dragon, who was used to staying at home, felt as if he was sitting on pins and needles in front of a child. 3 Tiger Xing was fine. He was not too afraid. However, after negotiating with Fong Beibei, he did not even know what to say, let alone coaxing a child. "Papa." When Kiki saw Poplar Fruit come back, her calm little face suddenly became cloudy. She pursed her little mouth and reached out for Poplar Fruit to hug her. "Hey, isn't Papa back now? Kiki, don't cry." Poplar Fruit quickly hugged his daughter and coaxed her. Kiki did not really shed tears. She just sobbed and said with grievance, "Papa doesn't want Kiki anymore." "Who said that I don't want Kiki?" Poplar Fruit kissed Kiki's little face and said, "Kiki will always be Papa's little fairy. How can I not want you?" Fong Beibei smiled and took Kiki from the side. She stroked Kiki's hair with her fingers and comforted her. "It's okay, Kiki. Your papa just went out with Sister Beibei. He's back now." Fat Dragon looked at Poplar Fruit and the others strangely. He muttered in his heart, "They're so close. Stop pretending." After Kiki calmed down, 3 Tiger Xing asked carefully, "Poplar Fruit, what's the result of your discussion? Do you want me to revise the contract?" Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "No, we've discussed it. Just write my name." "Okay." 3 Tiger Xing took out the signature form and signed his name on the contract. He was the company's legal representative, so his signature was correct. He then passed it to Poplar Fruit. Yanghua took it. He carefully looked through the 3 contracts to make sure that they weren't swapped out. Then he signed his name on each page of the contract. 3 Tiger Xing carefully put away the 2 contracts as if they were rare treasures. He was afraid that they would fall to the ground and shatter. After putting them away, he raised his head and smiled. "When we get back to Beijing, I'll go through the registration process. We'll be a family in the future." Poplar Fruit stood up and shook hands with 3 Tiger Xing. He smiled and said, "No problem. After the change in shares is confirmed, I'll transfer 4 million to the company's account. I believe that under Uncle Hu's leadership, our game will be better and become a hit. Of course, if Blizzard needs me to communicate with them, don't hesitate to let me know." 4 million wasn't a small amount. Although Poplar Fruit didn't care that much about it, he still had to be careful. Okay. 3 Tiger Xing held onto Poplar Fruit's hand tightly. This matter was considered to have come to an end. Poplar Fruit paid the bill, and everyone prepared to leave. "Let me send you back?" Poplar Fruit asked Fong Beibei politely. "No need. I didn't want my parents to find out, so I snuck out." Fong Beibei said, "I'm really going to my friend's house to play. Otherwise, I'll be exposed if they ask." Poplar Fruit reluctantly sent Fong Beibei to the entrance of the restaurant. He watched as she put on her hat and left. "Don't look. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future." Fat Dragon snickered behind him. "Hurry up and send us back. Uncle Hu is rushing back to Beijing." "It's okay. I can take a taxi to the airport." 3 Tiger Xing quickly said. "What are you saying?" Poplar Fruit laughed. "How can I leave you halfway? I don't have anything else to do. I'll send you back. Let's go. To be honest, 3 Tigershing was in a hurry. They were in the critical period of the game's development. 3 Tigershing felt that coming out for a few days was a waste. He urgently needed to bring this good news back. With Blizzard's recommendation and Poplar Fruit's 4 million support, this was undoubtedly a boost to Ludong, who had endured a few months of hardship. After sending 3 Tigershing off, Poplar Fruit thought that Fat Dragon would also take the plane back. He was about to buy a ticket for Fat Dragon, but Fat Dragon grabbed his hand and laughed. Fruit, don't rush. I still have something to talk to you about. What is it? Poplar Fruit's head was full of question marks. It wasn't convenient to talk about it at the airport, but Fat Dragon didn't say anything on the way back. All he did was tease Poplar Fruit and Fong Bei Bei. Sister Yongping told my aunt some time ago that she was worried that you didn't have a girlfriend and that your marriage would be a big problem, Fat Dragon said with a smile. In the end, you found a junior girl without saying anything, and she's a beauty. TSK, I knew it. With our Fruit's talent, how could he be worried about not having a girlfriend? Don't you think so? Poplar Fruit looked at Fat Dragon cautiously through the rearview mirror and asked strangely, "What are you trying to say?" Chapter 442. What I want to say is, Fruit, invest some money in me. Fat Dragon said with a smile. Invest money in you? Poplar Fruit asked casually as he drove. Suddenly he raised his voice. Fat Dragon, are you threatening me with my girlfriend? No way. Fat Dragon denied. Why would I? With our relationship, do I need to threaten you? Fruit, right? Based on our relationship, you will invest in me, right? As he spoke, he nervously touched his round head, wanting to laugh at the same time. Poplar Fruit was amused by this guy. He gritted his teeth and said, Yes, I will invest in you. Even if you don't threaten me, I will invest in you. If you threaten me, I will invest in you even more. Fat Dragon laughed. He sat in the back seat. Kiki looked at him and suddenly shouted, Papa, Papa! Uncle Fat is Big Bad Wolf. Big Bad Guy. Isn't he? Don't all the big bad guys in cartoons and movies laugh like this? Why don't you ask my sister for investment? Poplar Fruit asked strangely. Brother Chongguan is now a millionaire. You have such a good relationship with my sister. Why don't you ask her for money? Then you don't know Sister Yongping. Fat Dragon complained. Sister Yongping has made money, but she is too conservative. It's okay to ask for some pocket money, but if I ask her for millions, she will kill me. Millions? Poplar Fruit exclaimed. No wonder she didn't give it to you. If she gave you 1 million, the factory's working capital would be empty. What do you need so much money for? Fat Dragon started his own small company. Poplar Fruit heard from Yongping that its total assets were less than 200,000. If he stuffed himself with money, he wouldn't be able to digest 1 million in a year. It's not like that. Fat Dragon stuttered for a long time before saying, This matter is very complicated. Let me tell you in detail. It was indeed very complicated. Poplar Fruit drove for another 10 minutes before returning to the neighborhood. He led Fat Dragon back to his place to continue the story. However, Fat Dragon was still not done talking. Ignoring the long history of their relationship and the twists and turns in the development of their relationship, to put it simply, Fatty Dragon had a good relationship with a group of computer experts both in China and abroad. These guys were preparing to get together and set up a studio. Using their understanding of the internet, they were also going to create mobile games. Poplar Fruit knew that although Fat Dragon's education was not high, he had learned a lot of coding in English. His English was barely at the level of a level 6 college student. It was not a problem for him to send emails and chat with foreign friends. However, he didn't expect that Fat Dragon had met so many computer experts from all over the world in his more than 10 years of hacking. Of course, they were more conscientious hackers and had not made any big mistakes. Speaking of which, these experts were also too conscientious. Although their abilities were outstanding, they had not made much money for so many years. Among this group of experts, most of them were from poor countries in Southeast Asia. Now that they were getting older, they began to face the pressure of life. Money had indeed become a problem. In the past, Fat Dragon could still help them, but it would not be a problem if it continued like this. Therefore, they decided to join forces and start a business. Now, the mobile game market was the most popular. They were usually otakus who loved to play games and code. They all decided to step into this industry. Since they wanted to join forces to start a business, they had to set up a company to make profits. If not, it would be good to set up a studio. Fat Dragon, who was the most popular and currently the most rich, was elected to be the CEO. Your company hasn't even been registered, but you have already assigned titles. Poplar Fruit laughed. He poured a glass of water for Fat Dragon. Fat Dragon's mouth was dry from talking, so he quickly drank it in one gulp. He said, "The company hasn't been registered. That means there is no money. With money, everything will be easy." "What do you plan to do after registering the company? Summon all of your multinational coalition forces to China?" Poplar Fruit asked with a smile. "No, operations and finance are recruiting people in China. Our core team's work is flexible. They can do it on their home computers. If we call them over, they won't do it." Fat Dragon explained. If they were willing to work from 9 to 6, how could this group of experts not be able to find a job? Then why would they need to set up a company? If they were to enter any IT company, the bosses would clap their hands and welcome them. "I'm curious. How many people do you have in your team?" Poplar Fruit asked. "There are 2 in Melrose. They are brothers. There are 3 in Indy, but I don't know any of them. There is 1 in Vietnam. This brother is called Dong Nguyen. He is very talented in games. When he was in school, he won a lot of awards. Now he has a studio called Gear, but he also agreed to join us. There are also a few from South America." Fat Dragon said. "Oh yeah, there are 3 other people in our country other than me. We gather once a year." Dong Nguyen. Poplar Fruit laughed. "You can pronounce this name in Vietnamese very accurately." Fat Dragon said in surprise. "Fruit, this Vuan Donga taught me for a long time before I learned it. How did you imitate it so well?" "Haha, I know Vietnamese." "Oh yeah, is it enough to make a game with just a dozen people?" That was just a small interlude. Poplar Fruit continued to ask curiously. "We don't plan to make a big game. We plan to make some small games like an arcade. I've seen it before. This type of small game is also very popular in mobile games. Our game can satisfy people's needs to kill time. It won't be a problem to sell," Fat Dragon said. "Of course, the money won't be as profitable as Uncle who's big online games. His game is very profitable. Our main goal is to make it free, and then we will make money through advertising," Fat Dragon explained. "I don't know much about games." Poplar Fruit shook his head. "But you have to support us." Fat Dragon was anxious. He said, "They are placing their hopes on me, and I can only ask for your help. It's rare for everyone to gather together. If I don't pay enough to start a company, everyone will have to go their separate ways." "I didn't say I won't support you," Poplar Fruit laughed. "You want to start a business. How can I not support you as a brother? What kind of support do you want? Do you also want that recommendation? You should have told me earlier. It's already been sold to Uncle Hu. There's no need for a recommendation. We're just a small mobile game. There's no need to waste it." Fat Dragon was energized. He counted with his fingers and said to Poplar Fruit, "Invest $1 million for us, and we'll give you 49% of the shares. Of course, these shares only give you the right to receive dividends." "So much?" Poplar Fruit exclaimed. "I mean, you're giving me so many shares?" Poplar Fruit asked in shock. "This $1 million in exchange for 49% of the shares. Previously, Poplar Fruit had to fork out $4 million in exchange for 20% of Ludongzhui US shares. Chapter 443. Fat Dragon left happily. He had received the startup capital from Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit was still the same as before. He was very generous to his relatives. Since Fat Dragon had the ambition to lead a multinational coalition to conquer the world, Poplar Fruit's 1 million yuan could be said to be half a loan and half a gift to him. Fat Dragon said at first that he would give Poplar Fruit 49% of the shares, but Poplar Fruit only asked for 10% in the end. Of course, this was not because Fat Dragon had something on Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit was very happy with Fat Dragon's attitude. It could be regarded as an angel investment. He would not take advantage of these otaku's career. In the evening, Song Ji-wen, who was shopping outside, drove back in his father's car. He made 4 calls to Poplar Fruit, who was bathing Kiki in the bathroom, and urged him to come down and move things with him. Fortunately, Poplar Fruit did not take a bath himself. After moving things 2 or 3 times, he was sweating. All the supplies were piled up in Song Ji-wen's house. Poplar Fruit had to keep the living room clean. That was Kiki's playground. Song Ji-wen did not care. After work, he hid in the bedroom to play computer games. Who would watch TV in the living room now? Kiki would. But today she was attracted by the piled-up supplies. She thought it was a gift. She screamed as she entered the door and rushed to the hill. Poplar Fruit quickly grabbed Kiki. The little girl had just taken a bath. If she got dust, he would have to wash her again later. Kiki turned her head and asked happily, Papa, is it for Kiki? Yes, Kiki also has a share. Poplar Fruit laughed. If he did not say so, Kiki would not give up. What did you buy? How can you put so much in the car? Poplar Fruit was speechless. Song Ji-wen spent at least 4 figures today. Was he going to move the supermarket home? Why can't I put it down? Song Ji-wen laughed and said, I've observed that the space in the back of your car is very large. It's more than enough to put these things in. I'll buy some more later and tie a rope to the roof. Pretend. Poplar Fruit wanted to say pretend, but in front of Kiki, he did not dare to swear. He had to hold it back. He said helplessly, Roof? What are you thinking? It's so ugly. We're going to travel, not deliver goods. But what I bought is very useful. Song Ji-wen said, Look, food. You like spicy strips, Kiki likes milk powder, potato chips, and so on. Even if we get lost in the wild, these food can support us for 3 days. First of all, Poplar Fruit raised his index finger and said, I don't like spicy strips. When did you see me eat spicy strips? Is that so? Song Ji-wen laughed twice, threw the box of spicy strips aside, and said, Well, I don't know why it came in. Second. Poplar Fruit raised his second finger and said, We won't get lost in the wild, because we're not going to camp in the wild. We'll only follow the GPS, and we'll take the highway or national road. Lastly, and most importantly, why do we need to bring snacks? Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes and said, If you want to eat, just bring 1 or 2 bags. You have money, and you can just buy it on the road when you're short. Why bring so many snacks on the road? Well, if you don't want snacks, then don't. Song Ji-wen used his hands and feet to clear out the snacks. Suddenly, the small mountain shrank by half. What about this? Song Ji-wen said, pointing to 3 bulging things tied with cloth belts, 2 big and 1 small. What's here? Poplar Fruit asked Song Ji-wen to open one. Sleeping bag. This is for Kiki. Song Ji-wen opened the small one and spread it out. Poplar Fruit touched it. It was very soft and smooth. It was a hollow cotton sleeping bag, a very light kind. Kiki also curiously touched it, but was quickly pulled away by Poplar Fruit. My friend who likes the outdoors recommended it. The quality is definitely good, Song Ji-wen said. But you said that we don't need this sleeping bag if we don't go to the wild, right? Poplar Fruit lifted the big sleeping bag and felt that it was less than half a kilo. He shook his head and said, Yes, keep it. It's not heavy and doesn't take up much space. If you don't like the bed in the hotel, this might come in handy. Okay. Song Ji-wen's purchase was finally accepted. He happily refolded the small sleeping bag and put it aside. Emergency medical kit. Song Ji-wen pulled over the small box with a white cross mark, opened it, and then took out a piece of paper and read, Gastric pacification, gastric reflux, diarrhea. Assimilin. Kayin Bayao. Band-Aid. You don't have to read it. Take this with you. It's very useful. Poplar Fruit laughed. But there's nothing suitable for Kiki. It's okay, I'll buy it myself tomorrow. Multifunctional Swiss Army knife, compass, flashlight. Song Ji-wen picked out some small outdoor necessities from the supplies. They're all very useful. Poplar Fruit nodded and said, "These don't take up much space. Pack them up." Song Jiwen stuffed these scattered items into a small bag. Poplar Fruit nodded. These were all recommended by Song Jiwen's friends. There were also many strange supplies that Song Jiwen bought on his own initiative, such as anti-pervert stun batons, folding canvas stools for fishing, and so on. Poplar Fruit had no choice but to ask Song Jiwen to return them the next day. Yes, what's the use of an electric stun baton if you want to prevent perverts? Could it be that when traveling normally, especially in my great celestial empire, we still need to be afraid of bandits halfway? Even if there are robbers, Poplar Fruit is an expert. It's more useful than an electric stun baton. Alright. After sorting out the supplies, Poplar Fruit asked, "Mosquito, do you know how to get a passport to the United States?" "Get what?" Song Jiwen didn't react for a while. "Why are you going to the United States?" "You're wrong. Aren't you going to France? Someone helped me get the French visa done a long time ago." Poplar Fruit scratched his head. His 2 visas were done by someone directly, so he still didn't know anything. "I want to go to the United States in October." Poplar Fruit blushed and explained to Song Jiwen about Fong Beibei's competition in the United States. He planned to fly to the United States directly from Bali to give Fong Beibei a surprise when Givenchy's matter was settled. "So romantic?" Song Jiwen said with a smile. "Let me see your passport." Poplar Fruit went back to get his passport and passed it to Song Jiwen. Song Jiwen flipped through it and returned it to Poplar Fruit. He looked at Poplar Fruit enviously and said, "What? You don't have to get it anymore. Your business visa to the United States is more than once a year. You can just go there directly." Chapter 444. On Sunday, Poplar Fruit stayed at home to figure out how to write his thesis. Of course, after meeting the dean, Poplar Fruit did not stay idle for the next 2 days. In the dead of the night, he had already finished reading the materials given by the dean. An academic thesis had more words than a master's thesis. Of course, the master's thesis here was the bachelor's thesis that Poplar Fruit wrote before. That only required 3,000 to 4,000 words. Compared to a doctoral thesis that could easily be tens of thousands of words long, Poplar Fruit's academic thesis of 8,000 words was much less. Less words did not mean it was easy to write. If the number of words was too small, the author would have to have a strong academic foundation. They would have to cut out the nonsense and concentrate on the essence. Otherwise, how could a short 8,000 words be enough to contain the content they wanted to express? Poplar Fruit felt that if he just wrote the content that he dictated to the dean that day, it would be more than 30,000 words. How to cut it down was a problem. There was also the structure. The structure of the thesis required even more rigor. Poplar Fruit's own materials were written by his heart. There was no framework at all. He had to reorganize all the materials before he could start writing. Of course, before that, Poplar Fruit had to further improve his translation theory. This thesis was going to be published and would be scrutinized by all the scholars in China who studied linguistics. Poplar Fruit could not be careless. He had to carefully think about it and try his best to make no logical mistakes. Therefore, on this day he went into the study room and used the computer to search for ancient Sanskrit and Dravidian bilingual research materials on the internet. He then stuffed all the materials into his memory. He did not know if it would be useful, but Poplar Fruit was sure that he would be able to find what he needed. Other than dealing with Kiki and Jinzai from time to time, and feeding Kiki lunch and coaxing her to take a nap, Poplar Fruit was reading materials and memorizing them all day. It was not until evening that he walked out of the study room dizzily. Poplar Fruit stretched his body. He realized that even if his memory was not like a human's, it was still a bit difficult to finish reading a large amount of materials in one day. However, the results were still worth celebrating. Poplar Fruit summarized 2 new translation methods that were suitable for Chinese translation. He also found a way to solve the loopholes in the previous theory. Poplar Fruit pinched his fingers. He estimated that he would be able to sort out the theory by tomorrow. Then the day after tomorrow he would reorganize the thesis framework and draft. The day after tomorrow, he would be able to write the thesis in half a day. Finally, only the dean's revision and his own final corrections. There was no need to wait until Friday. Yonggwa was confident that she could complete the task on Thursday. At night, after Yonggwa gave Chi-Chi a bath, she took out an hour to accompany Chi-Chi on the sofa to watch cartoons. Although Yonggwa still felt that it was very childish, in order to accompany her daughter, she calmed down. Seeing his daughter so excited, Poplar Fruit felt that it was all worth it. Kiki was indeed very excited. She stared at the computer screen the whole time and explained to her father in an excited tone. Pleasant Goat is very powerful, very powerful. He saves everyone every time. Lazy Goat likes to eat and sleep. Kiki giggled. Uncle Mosquito also likes to eat and sleep. Grey Wolf likes to say, I will definitely come back for revenge. Chi-Chi pointed at Big Big Wolf, who was sent flying, and imitated Big Big Wolf's tone in the cartoon, as she imitated him in a childish voice. She imitated it quite well. Poplar Fruit could not help but laugh. While the plot at the beginning of the new episode was relatively calm, Poplar Fruit combed Kiki's hair and asked, Kiki, after watching so many episodes, which sheep do you like the most? Kiki likes Beautiful Goat the most. Kiki twisted her little butt and squeezed into her father's arms to find the most comfortable sitting position, but she still said without looking back, Beautiful Goat is as cute and beautiful as Kiki. Haha. Poplar Fruit was amused and laughed heartily. He gently patted the narcissistic little girl's head and said, Yes, our Kiki is so cute and beautiful. At this time, Song Jiwen, who had gone shopping again, pushed the door open and came in. Lazy Goat is here. Poplar Fruit gently patted Kiki to signal her. Chi-Chi finally reluctantly moved her gaze away from the computer screen. She turned her head to look at Uncle Mosquito and suddenly burst into laughter with her father. Song Jiwen had just come in. He didn't know what Poplar Fruit and the others were laughing about. He thought that he had worn the wrong clothes or had something strange on him, so he lowered his head and searched for it for a long time. What are you laughing about? Song Jiwen finally sat down on the sofa innocently and asked. Haha, Kiki, let's not tell Uncle Mosquito. Poplar Fruit mysteriously revealed 2 canine teeth and continued to laugh. How boring. You're watching cartoons, and it's Pleasant Goat. Song Jiwen bent one arm directly on the back of the sofa. It's okay. It's actually very interesting. Poplar Fruit said with a smile. The interesting parts were in the conversation with Kiki. Kiki's childish words carried no harm, and many of the things she said were very interesting. You're sitting comfortably at home. You don't know that I went shopping again today and bought. Before Song Jiwen finished complaining, he was interrupted by Poplar Fruit. Stop. Let's talk about buying things later. Poplar Fruit said. Why are you in such a hurry? Don't you still have me? Wait until Thursday. When I'm free, I'll see what's missing and then go buy it. Of course you're not worried. Song Jiwen complained. We're not fully prepared. What if something happens on the way? We're just going on a trip. Do you need to be so worried? Now you can find hotels and service stations everywhere. If there's any problem, you can solve it on the way. Don't worry, don't worry. Poplar Fruit smiled and waved his hand. Okay. Song Jiwen helplessly shook his head and said, I'm going back to watch the movie. I'll look at the route tomorrow at work. Go. Don't get in the way of us watching Pleasant Goat. Poplar Fruit smiled and pushed him. In fact, Song Jiwen only got in the way of Poplar Fruit and Kiki's conversation. Kiki herself was not affected at all. This little fellow, once she watched TV, she would be 100% engrossed in it. Her ears would not listen to what was going on outside. Even if Song Jiwen spoke into her ear, she would not hear him. That's right. Poplar Fruit found another Kiki who inherited his talent, multitasking. As long as Kiki was willing, she could split her attention to watch TV and chat with her father. Although she was not as abnormal as Poplar Fruit, he could do other things while dividing a region in his mind for translation. It still made Poplar Fruit very happy. This is my daughter. Poplar Fruit proudly touched Kiki's soft hair and thought. Chapter 445. It was late at night. Poplar Fruit coaxed Kiki, who had finished watching the cartoon, to sleep. Then he was reading in the living room. Suddenly, with a bang, the door of his house was knocked open. Song Jiwen's excited voice came in. Laogua laogua. Sho. Poplar Fruit jumped up from the sofa and glared at Song Jiwen. He lowered his voice and said, "Why are you shouting so loudly in the middle of the night? Kiki is asleep." "I was wrong." Song Jiwen shrunk his head. He lowered his voice and asked, "Let's talk at my place?" Poplar Fruit nodded, followed him out and closed the door. When they arrived at Song Jiwen's house, Poplar Fruit's voice returned to normal. "What's wrong? What's making you so excited? Didn't you go to Beijing to shoot a movie?" Song Jiwen asked excitedly. "What's the name of it again?" "It's not a movie, it's a micro-movie." Poplar Fruit corrected him. "It's called Unexpectedly." "What's wrong?" "Look." Song Jiwen chuckled. He opened the laptop he had been holding and pointed at the screen for Poplar Fruit to see. "See if this is it." Poplar Fruit looked down. It was true. Song Jiwen's computer screen was open to Yuda's webpage. On the homepage was the cover of the micro-movie, Unexpectedly, Wang Dachui's Transmigration. Poplar Fruit had not seen this cover when he was in Beijing. However, Poplar Fruit recognized Baiku's classic silly expression at a glance. The cover was newly made. It was unknown whether it was res hot or copied from the movie. In any case, the main actors appeared in this small picture. Poplar Fruit not only saw the bald beggar wearing a kasaya, but also the pig-nosed Cheonjuan. This was a blockbuster. Poplar Fruit was also very excited. With YouTube's hundreds of millions of views every day, there was no need to worry that no one would watch this micro-movie. "You're out so soon? I thought it would be released next month." Poplar Fruit laughed. "Let's have a look." "There's nothing to watch." Song Jiwen said, "It's only a few seconds of the promotional video. I wanted to ask you, why are you only showing the promotional video? What a scam." "I knew it." Poplar Fruit laughed. "It's impossible for them to release it without informing me. It doesn't matter. A promotional video is just a promotional video. Let's try something new first." In fact, Yang Ming had already watched the Poplar Fruit when he was dubbing. He just wanted to see the effect of watching it on the website, but now that it was a promotional video, he had to watch it even more. The promotional video that was edited again would definitely give him a different feeling. Who would have thought, la 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 la? At the beginning, it was still the theme song that was randomly made up without any musical talent. Poplar Fruit wanted to laugh when he heard it. This was because Poplar Fruit and Kiki had a part in the chorus of La La La. At the end, here you are. Song Jiwen paused for a moment, then clicked play again. Poplar Fruit did indeed appear. He appeared for less than 2 seconds. Why is it so short? Aren't you the boss of this company and the investor of the video? Song Jiwen asked, puzzled. I'm just a small supporting character. It's already not bad to have a few seconds. Poplar Fruit laughed. Indeed, someone like Kiki did not even have a chance to show her face in the promotional video. The promotional video was not long. Just as Song Jiwen said, it was less than a minute. Moreover, the actual content of the micro-movie was only about 20 seconds. At the end, it was a congratulatory speech from some celebrities. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Who would have thought? Celebrities like Yang Mi, who were recently popular, came. Their congratulatory speech was repeatedly edited and pieced together. This kind of congratulatory speech was very similar to the New Year's congratulatory speech of the television station. It was often seen in some programs now. Poplar Fruit watched with great interest. The main reason was that he did not expect He to be able to find so many celebrities to support him. Old Gua. Song Jiwen turned his head. Like my daughter, he looked at Poplar Fruit with longing in his eyes. He asked shyly, how do you know so many celebrities? Especially Yang Mi. Do you have her contact information? A group photo or an autograph is also fine. Poplar Fruit knew that Song Jiwen liked this beautiful celebrity with a baby face and a baby voice. At the beginning of this year, when Yang Mi admitted to a relationship with a male celebrity, Song Jiwen was sad for a long time. However, Poplar Fruit still disappointed Song Jiwen. No. I've never seen them before. I don't know how He managed to invite so many celebrities. That's right. How could they afford to invite so many famous celebrities? Isn't One He a small company that has just developed? Poplar Fruit's thoughts turned in his head and he understood. It must be Zheng Yujie who helped. One He did not have much influence, but Zheng Yujie's family did. She only needed to ask her relatives who held important positions in the headquarters to say hello to those big companies in the entertainment industry. Wasn't it just asking their celebrities to take a few seconds of a VCR? Why would they rather offend the headquarters than help with such a small matter? Looking at Song Jiwen's disappointed look, Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "Don't worry. If there's a chance, I'll ask my friends in Beijing to help you get 2 autographs." This promise was not an empty promise. Poplar Fruit knew that Zheng Yujie would be able to get it. Besides, even if it was not through Zheng Yujie, it would be so complicated. After Wan He's reputation in the industry was established, it should not be a problem to ask for an autograph. What do you think of the previous clips? Poplar Fruit pointed to the screen and asked. There were many replies under the video. Half of them were attracted by the gimmick of the new film, while the other half did not know what was going on. However, when they saw that there were celebrities cheering for them, they also came to join in the fun. Any substantive comments were drowned out. Poplar Fruit still wanted to know if this film was attractive purely in terms of content. Look, it's still very funny. Song Jiwen laughed. That Wang Dachui is too funny. Also, that flying pig completely subverted my impression of pigs, okay? Then, are you looking forward to the release date of the main film? Poplar Fruit asked. Fuck, are you a part-time reporter? Song Jiwen laughed and scolded. You're asking me if I'm looking forward to it? Don't I look forward to getting the main film from you? I don't have the main film. Poplar Fruit waved his hand and said. Then, he once again turned into a relentless reporter. Brother Mosquito, can you tell me which character you look forward to the most in this short film? The character. Song Jiwen pretended to hesitate. Suddenly, he slapped the sofa and shouted in Cantonese. The character I look forward to the most is you, the loser on the street. You're so annoying. I really want to see Wang Dachui's face when he transmigrates back and chases you with a knife. Ha! Poplar Fruit laughed proudly. Then you'll be disappointed. I'm like a god in this short film. Indeed, it was Poplar Fruit, this god, who gave Wang Dachui the opportunity to return to the metropolis. Chapter 446. Wan He's people did not plan on leaving Poplar Fruit behind. The day after the promotion was released, Wan He personally called Poplar Fruit to inform him of the time and location of the micro-movie press conference. Speaking of which, with Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie's investment, Wan He seemed to have become more ambitious. It was just a small micro-movie. Not only did they have to promote it, but they also had to do a press conference like a premiere. What was more, when Poplar Fruit was writing his thesis, he even saw a video of Baiku and the others participating in an interview on YouTube's website. Although these talk shows weren't on a large scale yet, and were basically just small talks, Yang Guo was still dumbfounded when she saw the series of actions. What micro-movie? This was a slightly smaller version of a movie promotion, okay? As for the press conference, after Poplar Fruit and Zheng Yujie received the invitation, they said that they would not attend. Zheng Yujie felt that the event was too small, and there was no need for her to show up. Poplar Fruit had no intention of going at all. First of all, the press conference conflicted with his and Song Jiwen's travel plans. Second of all, even if there was no conflict, he did not plan on flying thousands of miles to Beijing to attend a press conference for a movie that he was just a bystander. Poplar Fruit had been busy writing his thesis for the past few days. Other than exercising and buying groceries, he did not leave the house. Even when Yedong Zhuoyue in Beijing confirmed the transfer of shares for him, Poplar Fruit directly transferred the money to Xing Sanhu and the others through online banking. Of course, these few days were not all boring. Something happened that made Poplar Fruit think deeply. It was Wednesday evening. Because he had already finished writing his thesis and sent it to the director at noon, Poplar Fruit ate early and took Kiki and Jinzi out for a walk. The summer days were long, and the afterglow dyed half the sky red. The edges of the sawed-open clouds seemed to be inlaid with brilliant golden light. It was rare to see such a beautiful evening, so Poplar Fruit didn't limit himself to their neighborhood. With Kiki in one hand and Gold's leash in the other, he went for a walk in the park outside the neighborhood. Yanjiang Park was open to the public. At this time, there were many old men and young people taking a stroll in the park. Fortunately, the park was long and narrow, and there were no aunties dancing in the square. Similarly, there were many salesmen handing out flyers by the roadside. Speaking of flyers, when he was a sophomore, Poplar Fruit and his classmates had sent flyers to the exhibition hall of the Guangdong Trade Fair. At that time, Poplar Fruit's grades were average, and he had not reached the level of being a vendor. He had experienced it, so he knew the bitterness of sending flyers. When he met people, he had to nod his head and bow. Sometimes, when he couldn't send it out, he had to endure the supercilious looks of others. It wasn't easy to earn 100 yuan a day's work. Therefore, although Poplar Fruit didn't take the initiative to ask for flyers, as long as he saw someone handing him a flyer, he would casually take it and find a trash can to throw it away. It was just a small matter. If he could help, Yang Guo would not slack off. Along the way, Poplar Fruit received a lot of advertisements for selling houses and promoting fitness. Kiki was very happy when she arrived at Yanjiang Park. The sky was still bright, and the scenery in the park was beautiful. She struggled to let her father put her down, and walked by herself. It was originally a walk, so Poplar Fruit put Kiki down. This way he had more hands to take the flyers. After stuffing the flyers in his hand into the trash can by the roadside, Poplar Fruit patted Kiki's little head and smiled as he motioned for her to continue walking. Because the other end of the dog leash was in Kiki's little hand, Goldie was already standing in front with its tongue sticking out and tail wagging. From time to time, it would look back to see when its little master would continue walking. These two little guys were restless. Kiki liked to walk in crowded places, while Goldie liked to jump up and down whenever it encountered a fake mountain, and whenever it encountered a ditch, it would jump up and down to show that it was strong. In this way, the two little fellows often pulled each other around. After a while, Chi-Chi turned around angrily, raised her little head and complained, "Papa, Gold is disobedient, I'll give it to you." Poplar Fruit smiled and took the dog leash from Kiki's little hand. He did not blame Goldie because of Kiki's words, because the two little guys were not any better. At this time, a girl squeezed in front of Poplar Fruit. Before Poplar Fruit saw the person, there was a flyer in front of him. "Sir, are you interested in kindergarten and trusteeship? We have afternoon classes and day classes." Poplar Fruit took it and said with a smile, "Thank you." After that, he chased after Kiki without looking back. "Hey sir, please wait." The girl hurriedly followed Poplar Fruit. It was probably because it was not easy to meet a potential target, young, rich, and with children. She did not want to just give out flyers casually. "Hello, what can I do for you?" Poplar Fruit looked strangely at the girl who followed him. The girl was not very beautiful, but with a ponytail, she gave people a feeling of youthful vitality. She held a stack of flyers and panted as she followed Poplar Fruit. When Poplar Fruit walked, she also walked. When Poplar Fruit stopped, she also stopped. "Sir, do you live in this neighborhood?" the ponytail girl asked. "Yes." Poplar Fruit smiled. He knew that his casual home dress revealed his identity. "If you can live in this neighborhood, I think you and your wife must have a high income." The ponytail girl got a chance to talk, so she quickly said with a smile. Poplar Fruit was slightly stunned, but he did not say anything about Kiki's mother. It was taboo to talk too much with a stranger. He nodded slightly and said, "It's okay." The ponytail girl panted and said, "Sir, I can see that you are a white-collar worker. But isn't there a saying? Income and effort are proportional. Although the ratio is different for everyone, the higher the income, the higher the cost of time. You work so hard, it must be hard to take care of and educate children." It was actually not bad. Poplar Fruit scratched his head. He did not think that it was hard, but what the ponytail girl said was true. In this society, there were still many people who worked from 9 to 6, and did not have the leisure time to take care of children. So Poplar Fruit walked forward with Kiki's small steps while smiling and nodding to the ponytail girl. "Sir, you can consider letting our organization take care of your children." The ponytail girl said happily as if she had been encouraged. Our organization is in the nearby community along the river. The environment is elegant and safe. Moreover, we are a AAA organization certified by the Ministry of Education. The facilities are complete, and the teachers are experienced. Whether you want a full daycare or a full daycare, we have the corresponding full daycare classes for you to choose. Chapter 447. Kiki stopped. She saw a small flower growing on the grass by the roadside, and squatted down to look at it. Goldie saw it and ran over happily, squeezing beside Kiki. Poplar Fruit finally had time to stop. He curiously turned to look at the ponytailed girl and asked, "Aren't you distributing flyers? Why are you doing part-time promotion?" The ponytailed girl's face was slightly red, but it was only because of the hot weather. She looked into Yonggua's eyes without any shyness and said, "My kindergarten is run by my uncle, and I'm a preschool teacher. I'm free today, so I came out to give out flyers. There's no harm in promoting." Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "So that's how it is. Then your uncle will have to give you a raise. Where can I find such a good employee?" The ponytailed girl smiled and said, "There are many teachers in our kindergarten who are better and more responsible than me. If you're entrusting your child to us, then you can go to work without worry." Poplar Fruit smiled and said, "Actually, you found the wrong person to ask me to promote." "Why?" The ponytailed girl was stunned for a moment and asked. "Because." Poplar Fruit suddenly felt that it was a bit embarrassing to say that he was a man who didn't have to work at home. He simply changed the reason and pointed at Kiki and smiled. "Because my daughter is not yet 2 years old, and I don't want to think about kindergarten yet. So that's how it is." "Sir, your daughter is so cute," the ponytailed girl said with a smile. She was indeed a kindergarten teacher. The way she looked at the child was very gentle, not as serious as when she talked to Poplar Fruit. "Yes." Someone praised Kiki. Poplar Fruit smiled and his eyes narrowed. "It's okay if you don't think about it now, but sir, you can keep our flyers and come to us when you need them in the future." The ponytailed girl smiled and said, "In a year or two, when your daughter grows up, you'll have to think about early education. Our kindergarten is not only a trusteeship, but more importantly, it creates a learning atmosphere for the child. We have bilingual classes. If your child lives in an English-speaking environment, then her English level will definitely improve very quickly. Not only that, our teachers are very experienced kindergarten teachers. They often take the children to play some interactive games. In our kindergarten, your child can make many good friends and develop the ability to express and think while playing." The ponytailed girl blinked and smiled at Poplar Fruit indifferently. "So, you must give priority to our kindergarten in the future." Poplar Fruit smiled and waved at her and said, "Okay." The ponytail girl was very dedicated. She didn't forget to advertise in advance with Yonggua. Her words made Yonggua think about it for a long time when she came back. In the beginning, Yonggua didn't think about kindergarten. It didn't matter that Kiki was not old enough to go to kindergarten now. Because what was the reason for going to kindergarten? It was because parents didn't have time to take care of their children, so they threw their children into kindergarten. Poplar Fruit still remembered a conversation in college. A classmate who grew up in the city complained to them about his miserable experience of being bullied in kindergarten. Whether it was with his grandparents or in kindergarten, Poplar Fruit felt that it was best for the child to stay with their parents. Although Poplar Fruit's family was poor when he was young, he had parents and sister by his side. The process of growing up was very happy. Secondly, there was the problem of education. Poplar Fruit never felt that teaching kindergarten teachers could compare to the teachings of his parents. Of course, the competition in today's society was fierce. Many people couldn't wait to arrange various training classes for their children from the beginning. Dance classes, mathematical Olympiad classes. They were afraid that their children would lose at the starting line. They didn't even consider the problem of whether the child could accept it. Instead of letting Kiki receive this kind of force-feeding education, Poplar Fruit felt that it was better to teach her himself. If he taught himself, Kiki could freely choose the learning content she liked. Poplar Fruit didn't think that Kiki's learning at home couldn't compare to those children in kindergarten. Poplar Fruit himself was a person who knew 13 languages. When it came to English, which kindergarten teacher could compare to Poplar Fruit? Besides, Kiki still had sister Bebe. Fong Bebe and Poplar Fruit were the same. They were both geniuses and straight-A students. The only difference was innate and acquired. If there were no accidents in the future, both of them would have a doctorate or above. In addition to mathematics, Fong Bebe was also proficient in music theory and musical instruments. She was also good at playing the guitar. If the two of them worked together, they would definitely be able to sweep the kindergarten and private education in the country. The only thing that made Poplar Fruit hesitate was Kiki's social problems. Learning at home was as comfortable as it could be, but there weren't many children that she could see. Poplar Fruit had encountered this problem before. At that time in school, when Kiki met Sister Cece, she didn't know how to talk to strangers. However, because he was going to confess to Fong Bebe that day, this problem was temporarily put on hold. Mosquito, what do you think if I send Kiki to kindergarten? Poplar Fruit saw Song Jiwen walk in and asked. Are you sick? Song Jiwen asked in surprise. Why would you send Kiki to kindergarten? Just because it's inconvenient for us to travel? No. Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes and said angrily. That's just an idea. How can I send Kiki there now? How old is she? Then I have to ask you. Song Jiwen looked through Poplar Fruit's refrigerator and asked. You said that you stay at home all day and don't have to go to work. You have nothing to do but send Kiki to kindergarten. Aren't you looking for trouble? Here's what I think. Poplar Fruit told him about his worries about Kiki staying at home and not having any children to play with. It's still early. Song Jiwen waved his hand and sucked on his yogurt, then said, We'll think about it later. You're not a father, yet you're making sarcastic remarks. Poplar Fruit rolled his eyes and said, Such an important thing, of course, we have to think about it early. Song Jiwen rolled his eyes and had an idea. He suggested, Aren't you going to stay at school often in the future? How about this? You can unite with the young teachers who just have children and organize a parent-child association or something. You can arrange a time for everyone to get together every week and let the children play together. Wouldn't that solve the problem? Good idea. Poplar Fruit's eyes lit up and he happily said, The idea is actually very ordinary, because there are many such associations abroad, and it may not work in China. However, Song Jiwen gave Poplar Fruit an idea. He can find a playmate for Kiki through the teachers in the school. The children of the teachers must be more educated and reasonable. Compared to those who he doesn't know, Poplar Fruit is much more assured. Chapter 448. Poplar Fruit, I have nothing more to teach you. Chen Zongdai sighed softly as he spoke his mind. Poplar Fruit was shocked. He raised his head and scanned the dean's face. However, he did not see any anger from the dean. He only saw a gratified and slightly regretful expression. Today was Thursday. Poplar Fruit received a notice from Chen Zongdai and came to school. Just now in this office, Chen Zongdai asked Poplar Fruit to sit down. He looked at Poplar Fruit's thesis in his hand without saying a word. Poplar Fruit felt a little bored. However, Chen Zongdai suddenly said something like this. Teacher, don't scare me. Poplar Fruit desperately waved his hand and said, I haven't officially learned from you yet. Are you going to kick me out? Who said I'm kicking you out? You didn't make any mistakes. Why would I kick you out? Chen Zongdai looked at him and said, Also, you said you haven't officially learned from me. Then what about the books I asked you to read a few months ago? It was good that he was not kicked out. During this time, Poplar Fruit had begun to enjoy studying under Chen Zongdai's guidance. Chen Zongdai was very interesting. Although he was old and was a domestic authority in functional linguistics, he did not put on airs with Poplar Fruit. Also, he was different from other teachers. He taught Poplar Fruit according to his aptitude. He specifically asked Poplar Fruit to learn what he wanted to learn. Also, the choice of reading materials was both deep and broad. The reason why Poplar Fruit was able to discover something in a few months was because of the framework of knowledge instilled in him by Chen Zongdai. Secondly, Chen Zhongdai did not treat Poplar Fruit as an ordinary student. He treated Poplar Fruit as an experimental field. He could use his imagination and test the bottom line of Poplar Fruit's learning ability. Also, Chen Zhongdai allowed Poplar Fruit to do whatever he wanted. He did not give him too much homework that occupied Poplar Fruit's personal time. He only gave him what he needed to learn, and waited for Poplar Fruit to finish learning. In this way, not only could Poplar Fruit improve at a speed visible to the naked eye, but his personal life was also not affected too much. Poplar Fruit understood that his choice was correct a long time ago. If he did not firmly choose his alma mater, and chose Beijing International Studies University, would he still have so much freedom? Poplar Fruit scratched his head and said, "Teacher, I only received a notice as a postgraduate student. I haven't been admitted yet. How can I be considered to be studying with you?" "Kid, you're thinking too much again, aren't you?" Chen Zhongdai shook his head. He was 100% satisfied with this proud disciple of his. But in terms of life, even at his age, Chen Zhongdai felt that Poplar Fruit was a bit too traditional. "If you study with me, then you're my disciple. Why not? Is the title of a postgraduate student important?" Chen Zhongdai asked. In ancient times, there were no postgraduate students. So those scholars couldn't accept disciples? Then, why don't you want to teach me? Poplar Fruit scratched his head and asked. "Didn't I study well with you? Why do you suddenly say that? Is it because my thesis is too bad?" "It's because it's too good." Chen Zhongdai gently tapped the thesis on the desk with his hand and said, "The knowledge contained in this thesis is enough for me to teach you." Ah. Poplar Fruit was dumbfounded. He didn't think that his thesis was that good. Chen Zhongdai smiled softly and said, "Haven't you noticed that recently, I rarely give you study tasks?" "Is it because you're too busy?" Poplar Fruit asked. "Didn't you go to meetings often in the past 2 months? You're quite good at finding problems. That's indeed one of the reasons." Chen Zhongdai said angrily. "But don't you know that in a few months, you've already learned all the theoretical knowledge that would take a PhD student a few years to learn?" "Really? Didn't you say that I haven't finished learning the French classical translation theory?" Poplar Fruit scratched his head and asked. Chen Zhongdai said, "If you haven't finished learning it, you can just spend some time reading the materials I gave you. There's a famous saying in our country, the master introduces the door, but the cultivation depends on the individual. I've told you all the translation theory and linguistic knowledge I know. You'll have to figure out the rest by yourself." "But, don't you want to take me to do research projects?" Poplar Fruit asked anxiously. Chen Zhongdai laughed, shook his head and said, "I used to think that I would take you to do research projects and then let you learn how to do academic research. But now, from your thesis, I can see that you already have your own ideas. And they're already formed. That's why I can't let you join my research project or other people's research projects." Chen Zhongdai said seriously, "Because I don't know if you'll be influenced by other people's research. Is it like what Zhang Sanfeng and Zhang Wuji said in The Heaven Sword and Dragon Saber?" Yang Gua asked in a bold and imaginative manner. "Only by forgetting the moves. Will you not be stubborn and conservative? You don't want me to study functional translation theory with you because you don't want me to stay in the old land of functional translation theory, right? You're the old land." Chen Zhongdai laughed and said, "You look down on my research just because I praised you?" No, Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "Teacher, you misunderstood me. I'm just using a metaphor. If the new theory I'm discovering now is pioneering, then the functional translation theory is something you've conquered. I think this is also your wish." "You're right," Chen Zhongdai said with a smile. "Although I can't see how great your current theory can be, young people should have the courage to innovate. Since you've already reached such a level, I'll support you in researching new things. I don't want you to hide under my protection. But I still don't know how to research it." Yanggua scratched her head and said, "These are all my own guesses." Chen Zhongdai smiled and said, "Don't be too nervous. We study linguistics. It's different from physical and chemical research that requires several people in the laboratory. You can choose several people to join your team, or you can do research on your own. The results won't be too different. You'll understand how to conduct the research next semester. As for how to publish the results, Chen Zongdai smiled proudly and said, "Don't worry, with me here, you'll never have to worry about resources." Chapter 449. What are you standing there for? Song Jiwen yelled as he waved at Poplar Fruit. "Let's go." Poplar Fruit turned around and nodded at Song Jiwen with a smile. He turned around and looked at the bright lights of Guangzhou. Poplar Fruit took a deep breath and walked back to the car. The trip that had been planned for a week was finally about to begin. Song Jiwen didn't want to wait until dawn. He hurriedly went home after work. He had already packed his things last night. Pulling Yanghua, the two of them directly drove off. Poplar Fruit wasn't a very obedient person. He couldn't stand Song Jiwen's coaxing and pestering. Poplar Fruit also went crazy with Song Jiwen. Guangzhou was actually quite big. The two stopped to eat and refuel before they even left the city. While Song Jiwen was refueling, Poplar Fruit strolled out of the gas station and called Feng Beibei for a while. Ever since he chatted with Feng Beibei at the restaurant on the mountain, their relationship seemed to have returned to how it was before he confessed. They were more than friends, but not yet lovers. Poplar Fruit finally understood. Considering that Feng Beibei was busy preparing for the competition, he didn't disturb Feng Beibei often. However, he didn't completely cut off contact with her. For example, when they left today, Poplar Fruit told Feng Beibei about it. They kept in touch, but it wasn't to the point of being annoying. "Uncle, you're just showing off." Poplar Fruit could picture Feng Beibei's pouting face in his mind. "You can go and play, but I can only stay at home and do exercises. It's so unfair. Do you want me to come back and pick you up?" Poplar Fruit said with a smile. Although he was joking, it wasn't just a joke. If Feng Beibei said anything, Poplar Fruit would definitely kick Song Jiwen out of the driver's seat and drive back to Nansha. Since you're so sincere, I'll forgive you for now." Feng Beibei hid in her bedroom and patted her pillow. "It's so fun. Don't lead Kiki astray." After hanging up the phone, the reason why Yang Guo was in a daze while looking at Yang Cheng behind her was mainly because of Feng Beibei. She counted with her fingers and realized that almost half of the 2 months had passed. Returning from this trip would probably be the beginning of her happiness. Poplar Fruit was looking forward to it. "I'm talking about you, Lao Guo." Song Jiwen looked through the rearview mirror at Poplar Fruit, who was comfortably lying in the back seat and playing with Kiki. He said, "What's the point of going on a trip? It's for freedom and happiness. How can you be like this? Not only did you bring your family, but you also brought your dog along." Sensing Song Jiwen's deep malice, Goldie, who was bored lying on the luggage in the back seat, suddenly stood up. It was now quite big. When it stood up, it was taller than the back of the seat. Woof woof. Goldie seemed to be venting its dissatisfaction as it barked at Song Jiwen. "I told you not to talk bad about Goldie. It's very smart." Poplar Fruit said proudly. "I've really raised a yellow-eyed wolf." Song Jiwen muttered. "I've taken care of it for a month, but it doesn't know how to be grateful." Indeed, because Poplar Fruit had gone to Beijing, Song Jiwen had taken care of Goldie for almost a month. However, it seemed that during this period of time, they didn't have much fun. Goldie, like Kiki, still had a vigilant and hostile attitude towards Song Jiwen. "Okay, you can drive in peace," Poplar Fruit said with a smile. "I'll take over after I coax Kiki to sleep." Because they were in a hurry to go out and play, Poplar Fruit and Song Jiwen decided to drive through the night. The two of them took turns to drive. Song Jiwen drove the first half of the night, and Poplar Fruit drove the second half of the night. Song Jiwen, who lived opposite Poplar Fruit, had long noticed that Poplar Fruit was special, so he wasn't worried that Poplar Fruit couldn't get up in the middle of the night to drive. Speaking of which, Poplar Fruit had asked Lao Guo from the car dealership to install a retractable stand on the second seat of the car. When it was not used, it could be retracted back to the roof of the car. When it was needed, it could be pulled down, which was the seat for the laptop. At first, this idea was proposed by Song Jiwen to satisfy his desire to pass time in the car. Now it seemed that Kiki liked it more. She was already bored sitting in the baby seat, but now she could watch Pleasant Goat. Pleasant Goat said, if you have the ability, come and catch me. Ever since Chi-Chi watched cartoons with her father, she had fallen in love with this feeling. As she watched, she would explain to her father in bits and pieces, as if she was afraid that her father wouldn't understand. Yes. Poplar Fruit leaned over with a smile, bared his teeth and shouted, Pleasant Goat, Grey Wolf's papa wants to eat you. Kiki's hearing was very sensitive. She could hear the difference between the word pleasant and the word chi. Seeing her father come over, she giggled and laughed. Papa is also a bad Grey Wolf. Grey Wolf won't eat Pleasant Goat. Kiki waved her small hands, suddenly hugged her father's face and said seriously, Why? Poplar Fruit smelled the faint milky fragrance on Kiki's body and asked with a smile. Because Grey Wolf and Papa loves Kiki, and Grey Wolf also loves Pleasant Goat. Kiki's small mouth pouted and said with sparkling eyes, Haha, Grey Wolf loves Pleasant Goat. Song Jiwen, who was sitting in the front driving, laughed. This was the most childish joke he had ever heard. Grey Wolf and Pleasant Goat are both men. Before he could finish the last word, Poplar Fruit's bare feet kicked in front of him. Song Jiwen was so scared that he retracted the second half of his words. Poplar Fruit smiled and said to Kiki, Yes, Papa loves Kiki the most, just like Grey Wolf. Papa will never let others bully Kiki, because only Papa can bully Kiki. Papa, don't bully Kiki. Kiki will kiss Papa. Kiki pitifully touched her small butt, then stretched her hand back and touched her father's face. Poplar Fruit's face darkened. The light in the car was not very bright, and Poplar Fruit blocked the light. This little guy just touched his butt, then put her hand into his mouth. However, Kiki kissed her father's face to please him. Poplar Fruit immediately put on a bright smile. He smiled and turned his head, squeezed Kiki's face, and used his hair to tease her. Kiki was ticklish and laughed happily. For a long time, Kiki played and finally fell asleep. Although the Land Rover was driving smoothly on the highway, it was a car after all. When the engine vibrated, there would be a slight shake. Poplar Fruit turned off the computer a long time ago. Let me drive, Poplar Fruit said to Song Jiwen with a smile. You sleep for a while. I'll call you later. Song Jiwen yawned and said. Come on. Poplar Fruit shook his head and said, Look at you. You've been driving for 3 hours. Let me do it. Do you know that it's dangerous to drive when you're tired? Song Jiwen was not stubborn. He found a service station and changed seats with Poplar Fruit. In fact, Poplar Fruit's Land Rover had an advantage. Its seat could be put down to sleep. Song Jiwen once joked that it was a car shock. Song Jiwen adjusted his seat, covered himself with the quilt and fell asleep. Chapter 450. Where are we? Even though it was a Land Rover, it began to bump slowly on the uneven national highway. The swaying window shattered the first ray of sunlight in the morning, which made Song Jiwen rub his eyes and wake up from his sleep. You're up. After driving all night, Poplar Fruit was still in high spirits. He looked through the rearview mirror and smiled. We're almost out of Guangdong province. Because it's night, I didn't dare to drive too fast. Let's go have breakfast nearby first. Unexpectedly, Kiki woke up when she heard Poplar Fruit's voice. She opened her eyes and only saw the low-pressure roof of the car. The sleeping environment was completely different from the small bed she was most familiar with. She just woke up and forgot that she was still in the car. She only heard her father's voice, but didn't see her father. In a daze, Kiki's anger of getting up, which had been suppressed for a long time, came out again. Lao Gua, stop quickly. I'll drive. Song Jiwen didn't know how to coax a child. When he saw Kiki lying in the baby safety seat and crying, he panicked immediately. Poplar Fruit was also uneasy. After finding a safe road, Poplar Fruit drove the car to the side of the road, and then quickly changed back to the back seat of the car. Why are you crying? Poplar Fruit smiled and unfastened Kiki's seat belt. He took her back into his arms and coaxed, Isn't Daddy here? Papa. Back in her father's warm arms, Kiki's crying suddenly stopped, and soon there was only a little grievance left. The anger of getting up came and went quickly. After a while, Kiki became lively again. Looking at her singing and dancing with tears, Poplar Fruit felt that his heart was full of sunshine. There's a county town ahead. Song Jiwen looked at the road sign and said, "Let's go to the county town to eat? Don't go to those roadside stalls." Song Jiwen entered the county. It was far away from the bustling area of Guangdong province, but it was still a county after all. The various measures were incomparable to those in the countryside. Song Jiwen soon found a big market. "Eat buns." Song Jiwen got out of the car and happily said, "There's a bun shop in front. Is there porridge for sale?" Poplar Fruit walked down with Kiki in his arms, followed by Gold. After being cooped up in the car for so long, Goldie's spirit was somewhat listless. Once it got out of the car, it began to run around in front of and behind Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit knew the difference between a big city and a small city from the way the passers-by treated the Gold. Goldie's body was very big. In big cities, people would stay far away from it, but in this place, not only were the people who woke up early to do business not afraid, they even wanted to surround it to take a look. Especially the few little kids, they couldn't help but squat down to greet Goldie. But Goldie was very arrogant and didn't respond. Outside, Poplar Fruit was not so picky. He used mineral water to wet Kiki's small towel, wiped Kiki's face, and let her rinse her mouth. Although Kiki mischievously drank it, he then fed her porridge. "I've finished eating. I'll buy some fruit to eat on the way." Song Jiwen ate slowly, but he was still faster than Poplar Fruit. Poplar Fruit had just fed Kiki, and his rice noodle roll and porridge were almost cold. "Buy some small tangerines for Kiki." Poplar Fruit laughed. "Ah, small tangerines, Kiki wants to go too." Kiki happily jumped down from her small stool, and Poplar Fruit hurriedly supported her. Otherwise she would definitely fall on her butt. In fact, Kiki and Song Jiwen were quite familiar. Although she often quarreled with Song Jiwen, that was also because otherwise, she wouldn't leave her father and go with someone else. "Kiki is going with me?" Song Jiwen asked doubtfully. "Go ahead, it's okay." Poplar Fruit smiled. "It's good to take a walk after eating." With her father's permission, Kiki giggled and hugged the fluffy Gold. Poplar Fruit smiled lovingly and said, "But you have to listen to Uncle Mosquito. Don't run around, okay?" Okay. Kiki nodded and chased after Song Jiwen. Gold wagged its tail, looked at Kiki, and then looked at Poplar Fruit who was sitting alone and eating breakfast. It decisively left Poplar Fruit behind and ran over with its tail wagging. Poplar Fruit enjoyed the shop's rice noodle rolls. Speaking of which, the taste of this shop was not bad. The Cantonese rice noodle rolls were very delicious. And not only were they cheap, but Poplar Fruit felt that even though it was a little cold, the rice noodle rolls were still better than many of the so-called old shops in Yangcheng. Therefore, even though it was a Saturday morning, there were still many regular customers who came for breakfast. "Did you hear? Those people committed a crime in the city the day before yesterday." When Maya Bao came back, he said that the city was in a state of panic, and no one dared to bring their children out. Poplar Fruit's ears were sharp, and he heard the conversation between two old men at the next table. "They haven't been caught yet?" The other old man's news was probably a little late, and he asked with a shocked face, "During the Spring Festival, I heard from my youngest son in Shin City that this group of people committed crimes, and they haven't been caught yet." "Sai, how can they be caught?" The old man who brought up the topic first seemed to have a family member who worked in the Public Security Bureau, so he was very well informed. He lowered his voice and said, "I heard that this group of people is very powerful, and even the police can't do anything to them. When the motorcycle starts, it screams, snatches the children, and disappears in an instant. They still have to be caught." The old man who was not well informed said with dissatisfaction, "It's been 1 or 2 years, are the police all useless? They all eat shit? I heard that they kidnapped dozens of children before the Spring Festival. Don't the parents feel bad?" As Poplar Fruit listened, his chopsticks gradually stopped moving, and his brows gradually furrowed. If he guessed correctly, the group of people these two old men were talking about was the group that his mother, Su Jinfeng, warned him to be careful of last year. "Catch, of course they want to catch them." The well-informed old man said, "I heard that the province has set up a task force, and that the day before yesterday, someone came down." "Sai, then, Do you think that those people whose conscience has been bitten by dogs will still commit crimes here? The old man, who was not well informed, asked worriedly. My wife wants to take little Xingxing out today. No, I have to make a call. It's too dangerous. It shouldn't be. The well-informed old man knocked on the table, trying to pretend to be more confident. He said firmly, why would they still stay here? Based on previous experience, these people will change places after a shot. Staying in our city is just asking for death. Before he finished speaking, suddenly, the roar of a motorcycle could be heard on the street. A normal motorcycle would not make such a sound, unless it was a high-horsepower off-road motorcycle. Yang Guo could clearly hear the sound of motorcycles through the glass door. It wasn't just one, it was two. What made Poplar Fruit's face change drastically was Song Jiwen's roar mixed in with the two roars. That you're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.